Okay, so before I even start, I think we need to be sure to cover that you can, in fact, hear me through the microphone and not through the screen. Because the one time I didn't ask if the sound was okay, so the audio was terrible. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another installment of Wrist Shot Week. This being episode, what is it, 27? 27 episodes. Can you freaking believe it? Can you comment one in the chat, please, if you can hear me? That's our usual go-to. And let me start by saying hello to everyone in the chat. I see Curtis, Engineer Wannabe, Kevin, Brent, Blue Shirt, welcome, Sam Ray, Eric, welcome, Orange Hand, Chris Smith, Horror Mirror. I haven't seen you here for ages, so welcome. We're going to have a good time. This is going to be a fun installment. Does it sound good? Superb. Thank you. That makes a big difference. Because as we know, last time was a bit of a 10-minute disaster. Right, so I'm going to start with sharing this because I thought this would be quite cool before the show begins. This is from our friend Russell, who has been out and about experimenting with a few new pieces, and the theme of the show being, thank you, Flippin' Zippo 69, that's good. I see Ed and Exhibit X from New Orleans, welcome. It's so good to have you all here. Thank you for being a part of the show. So the theme of the show kind of worked together because of the submissions, actually. Hunting for the next watch seemed to be appropriate, and turns out that I do have a watch in the collection that I haven't shared with everyone, so that should be fun. And there's a nice selection of pieces that are pretty new for all of us in the community that we can talk around. Lots of outliers as well. You can see that this is the latest, as Philip mentions, Bedazzled. This is the new olive green with the diamond bezel set, and he loves this watch. He thinks it's superb. He's quite the Nautilus collector. So we're going to have a look at some pieces that he tried on in the boutique lately. Okay, let's get into the watches and start the show. We've been chatting already for like, I don't know, 3 minutes. Wow, it's always the weirdest thing getting back into the driver's seat and getting the presentation going. Let me know just if you want to get my attention, tag me in the chat. I'll be able to see it and we can roll from there. As you know, I generally miss a lot of the comments, but I try my best. Right. So I see Shaitan. Yes, I got your email. I saved all the emails until about 3 p.m. UK time, which was 7 hours ago. So odds are I've probably saved yours, but you never know. There's 100 and something images we're going to get through. Wada's saying no sound. If that's the case, I will be very disappointed in myself. Hopefully it's clear and sounding good. Dear Artifact and Scott and so many more of you, welcome to the show. This is going to be a goodie, a bit of a different take to the usual subject. Can you believe there's been 27 episodes? Mr. GMT, welcome. Okay, so this is what I'm drinking. It's a Glenkeith. I would say it's the ideal scotch to start the whiskey tasting trend. It's very easy to drink, and that's the real beauty. It's, how do you explain it? It's very light, very smooth, and it's superb for the beginner. That's what I would highly recommend. It's great. I mean, this is like one of my go-tos, especially when I'm doing these shows. They're also very affordable, which is a big plus. So would highly recommend anyone out there who wants to try scotch, who's never done it before. Glenkeith, good way to go. I almost consider it a dessert wine next to some of the harder stuff we generally drink here. I see Corvette Man, welcome. Chris Smith asking everyone what you're all wearing. Good question. This is what I'm wearing on the screen. Doesn't taste like petrol. That's it too, Eric. Tell you what, I had a Glenfiddich the other day. Ooh, that was hard. That was difficult. Tao, welcome. Thank you for the super chat, saying hello to everyone. We're going to really enjoy looking at your new pickup. Yeah, and that's really the selection, what we're going to be seeing. This little Smith's Everest I've really enjoyed, and you'll see that the cover photo has a similar watch, which has a nice story attached to it, so that should be good fun. This is the gilt dial model. I threw it on a oyster bracelet, a rivet bracelet, and I've just been enjoying this thing over the last few days. It's something. I've fallen in and out of love with the watch. I don't know why. I think it's the anti-reflective coating. But hell, it's a good watch to wear. It's 36 mils. That's the latest trend that we're seeing, and it's got a Miyota 90 something or other movement. I can never get it right. It's a proper gilt dial. It's actually been, if you know how the real process works, it's the reverse of how you would expect it. The printing is actually done through a negative process. So this is the brass dial that's printed over with the black paint. It's really cool. Superb little watch. And I just took these this afternoon. I thought you'd like some vibrancy. Yeah, so before we get to the actual watch reveal in the next slide, I think we can discuss this theme a little bit more about hunting for the next watch. Why do we enjoy it? I have this strong belief that this watch hobby of ours, though we have these core pieces in our collection, there's always room to explore, and there's always a new watch to find. There's always the joy of the hunt in there somewhere. So I think for all of us in this space, we can kind of agree to that. Taking a hit from the water, I've got the usual coffee, water, whiskey lined up as we do. It's so funny getting into the present mode again. As a new one, I'm seeing some selections of watches. Roar of the Tiger, I just saw you here, and 121 click bezel. Some really nice pieces. Talking about Zin, there's a handful that we're going to be seeing today, which is nice and very much outliers in this category. I mean, we've got Kudokis and some crazy cool stuff, Nomos and Moses, and it's going to be good. I really enjoy these shows when they are, thrown all over the place. Right. From the moment we start collecting, we will never be satisfied. Eric, that's just it. That is just it. We're always on the hunt, whether we like it or not. So this problem with the hobby is it always brings us back, regardless of where we are collecting. If we've collected all the high-end stuff, we eventually go down back to the simpler, the more affordable stuff. And there's so much within these tiers. There's so much to explore and enjoy. Okay, so let's get to the reveal. I've had this watch on the wrist for a month and a half already. I haven't mentioned it on the channel, but I have alluded to it. We've chatted about it a few times. It's never been featured on the show before. I've never actually featured this on Wrist Shot Week ever. I don't think any viewers have ever shared this watch. And it is the Longines Big Eye. I picked this up for a really, really great deal a couple of months back. I would say it's probably about 2 months back. And it's my first chronograph in this category. And it's been an awesome, just such a good wearing time. And it all works into the discussion because next week is going to be the video all about watches of the French Armed Forces and the Type 20 and the Tudor Marine Nationale. And that's been a big write-up that's been in the works. I really look forward to sharing that with you. I think it'll probably be Wednesday or Thursday, maybe Saturday. I don't know. I've still got a bit of editing to do with it, but it's like 22 minutes long and covers the full history of French Armed Forces pieces. And as we know, the Big Eye, the Type 20s, they were very, very popular. But this watch, I mean, I've been working on a write-up as I've been wearing it over the last month. It's very hard to fault, I tell you. There's lots of bonuses talking around, the movement, the price you're paying to get this piece, the size and the proportions. It's great. So that's really the start. The hunt for the next watch. This is a good way to start. I thought I could actually contribute for once, which is a nice change. And as far as chronos go, superb. Would highly recommend if you're looking for the Big Eye. Such a great example. The titanium is pretty pricey for what it is. If you'd like the original, the OG, highly, highly recommend. Okay, let's get in. Mako says if it isn't Rolex, it ain't worth jack. Well, there aren't that many Rolexes on the show. We have pretty good variety. Lots of modern. The next we're going to be looking at is the 1016. Yeah, but thank you, everyone. The Arabics, yeah, there's lots to talk about. I'm definitely going to be sharing that video in the next, I would say, month. But let's get to the one that became the cover photo. And you might say, cliche, it's a 1016. Of course, I'll be sharing a 1016 for the cover of the show. But the best part about it is that this has a bit of a story. Shaitan says, does it have a value? It has an ETA. It was actually an ETA movement that was made specifically by ETA for Longines for the watch, which is pretty cool. It's an automatic chrono. It's not a double stacked movement. It's one single movement. It's not two modules on top of each other. So yeah, there's lots to cover. I'm going to be working on that write-up over the next, I don't know, a couple of weeks. So this 1016 from Nick. He made the cover, and this I like the story more than anything else. He says, I just completed law school in America and was fortunate enough to receive my Grail of Grails, the Explorer 1016 from roughly 1970, from my grandfather. This is also his first submission. And I thought, that's such a cool story. It kind of lines up with what we're talking about today, because I'm definitely one who is on the hunt for a watch like this, given the choice, given the chance, hopefully one day 1016 Explorer is a real gem of a watch. I think that design just completely sings. Speaking of which, I was browsing, I think, just the internet the other day and came across a video done by Tim Wright, who has just picked up the new 124270, the latest 36 mil. Really interesting points he raises on the piece, and would recommend. I haven't been looking around for Explorers at the moment, but these new 36s, they are, funny enough, are they coming back into fashion and people are chatting about them again. So yeah, really like the story. This piece looks like, I mean, if I could give one suggestion to Nick, if you can get these lugs rebrushed, that would be a big bonus. If you have a watchmaker close by who could help you out there. Everything else looks pretty good, but the polishing on the lugs could be tidied up. But the dial condition is superb. I see the loom is very even. Oh, it's great. Little 1016, and the best part is it's a graduation gift. I mean, how cool is that? You finish university and you get one of these. I mean, where do you go from there? You have this staple, this piece that really defines where you start, establishes your collecting, you know? It's just superb. Okay. Right. So I see Demetrius from Greece. Welcome. Going to be sharing your Explorer later on, actually. There's quite a few Explorers. Speaking of which, Turbo, going to be good to share. And Megan, welcome. It's like 5 in the morning where you are at the moment, so I don't know how you're doing it, but thank you for joining in, Megan. Exhibit X says, I looked at the same Longines today. Coincidence? It's the Channel Supreme co-enabler. Tell you, yeah, I've got a long backstory behind this watch. I've been eyeing it for years, ever since it came out, and just thought, you know what? The price was right and needed a chrono. You rationalize it by saying to yourself, okay, I need a chronograph. This is important. And just jumped on it. And the one thing that blew me away the most is just how balanced everything feels, proportion-wise, and it's going to be a nice talk. It's such an outlier. I think it deserves a lot more attention by people. Right, and Antar saying the new 36 Explorer is really calling in the new meta of cool, smaller dimension. Yeah, what I also like is that it's not too overblown. It's very much, they've looking at the photos and the videos that have been coming out on it, it's been scaled down. It really feels like, or looks like, a scaled down 39. It keeps a lot of those traits of the modern arena. I would still love if they could try and reintroduce this watch one way or another, though they would never would. Yeah, but I love this. To begin the show, I thought 1016 would be a nice cover. And speaking of which, next we are jumping to Valeria. And Sam Ray says Longines Chrono. Yeah, I just revealed what I've been wearing over the last month. Picked up this and look forward to doing a review of that. Yeah, it's been a time, and real experience. I just love how clean it is. There's no text on the dial that really gets in the way. It's all nicely balanced. You know, the designer in me can criticize this thing for days, but it is superb. Right, carrying on to the 1016 is great. We'll be going to Valeria next, and I loved this. Talking about the hunt for the next watch. This was good and actually works very well into this conversation. He's rocking a Casio F91W. The reason? He sold everything he owns to save for the new Explorer. So he is rocking this. He's got a 7.5-inch wrist, roughly, he says, and he's considering just waiting until. I mean, that's serious restraint. Talk about really grabbing. He says, what else did he say? Oh, the real people's watch, of course, F91W. And then he mentioned something like, who needs luxury if you can get this for 14 pounds? You know, and I like these angles. This is the nice thing about the community, is that we all have different angles to jump in. And yeah, of course, I actually put you up at the very top because I thought it worked very well into the theme. Andrea's asking, is the strap the one that comes with the big eye? No, the strap is actually from WatchGecko. They have some great contoured Italian leather straps that they do. And I've thrown it on the deploying clasp, and it's great. The nice thing about it, especially, of course, when I get into the review, it'll make more sense. But the strap options, the things that the watch can take, you know, whether it's leather, whether it's NATO's, it's a real scaled up field watch. I think the best way we could sum it up. Antal asking, what did he sell? As far as I know, I'm trying to remember. You had Hamilton's, Valeria. Good question, Valeria. If you're still with us, let us know what you sold to save up. It'd be really good. I think it's just awesome. Talk about serious commitment to the cause. Taking a hit from the water again. God, the first like 20, 25 minutes getting into these shows, always Takes its time. The IED watch, exactly, Eric. I mean, this thing is the people's watch in many ways, not always the best ways. Yeah, okay. Gonna carry on through to the next submission. Valeria's still watching. Awesome. Yeah, I think it's great. I think committing to that cause is something else, and I really hope you pick it up soon because, yeah, as we mentioned, being on the hunt is very much the theme of the show. We're still not done yet, though, because we have another new pickup, and this is from Alan. And he picked up a real gem of a watch. As you can imagine, I really like it. I believe it's the CK2913-5-ish, or the -6 with the arrow hand. But this is an original Seamaster 300. And it's it's a gem. It's in good condition, too, for what it is. I mean, this is probably from around 1958, 1959. And yeah, I like it. It's obviously seen its time in the field, but it's a cool piece. And I mean, these Seamasters, I love the stories behind them. As you know, I've spoken about it so many times. How many videos have I actually featured with this watch, whether it's live streams or just talking points? This being the true vintage example, of course. And I noticed that he's using an aftermarket bracelet of some kind, and he's had to actually, I don't know if it was him or it was someone previously who owned the watch, but they've had to cut out the edges of the bracelet so it fits the lugs. I feel like this is a later generation bracelet, probably from the professional era of the cases, so the bracelet's a little bit different, but I do really, really dig it. Notice how different the handset is laid out. I know this is like super nerdery, but the arrow is on the minute hand instead of the hour hand, and technically when you're using it as a dive watch, you want the minute hand to be the thing that helps record the time easier. So being able to see that first when you're running the bezel makes more sense. And the bezel is arranged the correct way, and you know, a lot of the little quirks that the originals had were removed with these later variations, but still real gem of a watch. We love vintage pieces. Father Artifact, welcome. I saw Dear Artifact earlier. The Longines Big Eyes striking look, and may have to add it to the. You know what? It's blown me away. It's always a pleasant surprise when you pick up a watch and you just connect with it. It's such a good piece for what it's offering. There are a few downsides. The case thickness is pretty big. It's like 14.7 mils. That's including the box crystal and stuff. But I mean, it rests very flat on the wrist. And what else? The movement, the rotor, you can feel on your wrist when it's working. But otherwise, I mean, you've got it's a vertical clutch, column wheel, automatic chrono. You can't go wrong with it. It's a real field watch. Right. Okay. So we've covered Alan's selection. It's great. I mean, the variety is just going to get worse and worse as we go through. So let's go to BDev next. This is a gem of a watch that I've seen featured often before, and I've never even caught the name. It's an Oleg and Weiss. I probably said that completely wrong, but it's the P101. Such a cool, I would say, skin diver. That's where it falls into this category, right? Skin diver inspirations. Really looks good. And I'm seeing Megan saying, loving the Omega. I mean, we all love our vintage pieces. There are quite a few, if I remember right, and some excellent photography. I mean, it's a really varied show, to say the least. Looking at, we see Blancpains, we have Glasutas, we have, of course, Rolex Batmans and Black Bays and Pateks, and you know how it goes. It's a joy. It's a real joy. Oh, and BDev says, I changed over to the bracelet. I think I noticed you've just joined the Discord. It's great, BDev. I've been off that over the last few days. But I think what makes this watch work, speaking of which, date windows on watches. I'll put that link in the corner. That was this week's video. And the video tries to go into the specifics of dates and how they can work on some, can't work on others. This has been done excellently. Having the date at the 6, but then also having a little loom plot there to cover it. It's a gem. Really nice selection. The elements, even though they're all rectangular, they do somehow manage to break up the dial enough that you can read everything pretty legibly. And things like an arrowhead on the second hand as extra points. Has a GMT bezel, which is something. I don't know much about this brand, but I believe this is probably in that reissue category, don't you think? It has all the aspects that we would expect. It has the faux-ish loom. And the size has been modernized. I would imagine these originals would be like 35 millimeters. So these have been cleaned up quite a bit. I love that balance, though. It's nice and simple. Okay. So I don't know what's going on in the chat. Let's see. I see Flip and Zipper. Thank you. What did you say? Cheers. Water doesn't count. I know it doesn't. It's the night is young. It's 10:30. Don't worry, got a bit of whiskey still to last me. And everyone else here in the chat, 300 meters water resistant. BDev says, yeah, it's a great looking watch. I really am a sucker for skin divers. I've been looking at them a lot lately. There's something about how they all have their own unique quirks. Like we talk about how this hand is arranged for the minutes. And then they also do have many elements that are similar, which is also nice. The traditional skin diver case, certain aspects there are covered. And yeah, there's lots to cover. We could do a whole video on skin divers, I think. And dated 6, yeah. Would highly recommend watching that video about the date arrangement that I did. It was pretty rushed, considering how much more variety there is out there, but it tries to get the gist across that there are pros and cons to any date placement on a watch. That's what I wanted to cover in it, at least. And in some areas can be a hit or miss, other areas, big positive. This has been done well. Seeing the date at the 6 with a window means that it feels like someone actually put some thought into it. Then highlighting it with a lume plot makes it even more balanced when it glows in the dark. And yeah, great piece. BDev, thank you for sharing. Again, I'll butcher the name. Maybe you can put the name in the chat, but it's Oleg and Weiss. I'm not even going to try. I'll lose my lunch. Right. Do I still have the Oris Diver 65? Shatan, I do. I love it. It's such a cool little watch. Need to do a comparison video with it and the Seiko 62 MAS eventually. This watch is 90% Swiss made. Looks like this. Speaking of which, Sam Ray mentioning, we actually have a 143 very soon. It's on the show somewhere. I don't know whose watch it is, but we'll get there. Okay. So we're carrying on next to Blaine, and we go into a completely different category with the Green Dragon, or what do we call this watch? I call it the Green Mamba. Some call it the Green Dragon, but it's the Green Streamliner. And we talk about outliers and the hunt, and where attention seems to be going. It's awesome to see that more love is hitting the Moser camp, the Moser category. Hans saying, apologies for my tardiness. No, you're not. I mean, what has it been? 20 minutes? It's a Saturday. It's a Saturday evening. I don't expect any less. Welcome, Hans. Exhibit X says, date on the vertical of the 6 and 12 is more naturally visually balanced. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. And there were some very good points made with the date at the 3 o'clock. Why it works so well for some people who wear these watches is on your left wrist, it's the first thing that reveals itself when the sleeve is pulled back. So that makes a lot of sense. It's very divisive, but worth covering. But of course, the real winners in this category, Lunga. Of course, we have some Lungas later on. Glashütte with their big dates. I think those big windows are just timeless. They are incredible. Really epitomizes the art of watchmaking in the purest sense. Okay, more water down the hatch. I've been talking solidly for 20 minutes. Eric says bleach. Eric, you love it. You love it. So chatting about the green dial, I think they've done so many things right here. It's an outlier still, even at this point. Lots of little facets and elements that makes it unique. Of course, we can say it pulls lots of its inspiration from the 1970s, but in a different way. It's not the typical integrated bracelet, Genta-esque case that we see. The year of the green watch, Samray says. And it's happening here. We've seen Monacos, we've seen Carreras, we've seen Reversos. So many. It's uncalled for, I think. This happens, it seems like every year. The funny thing is, I don't know how brands, like how cool this shot is. I believe he's in Orange County, California, if I remember from the email. It's funny how the brands all seem to be in cahoots when it comes to releasing watches of the same color. Raises the point of whether or not they chat to each other from time to time about just how when these releases work and whether or not this color is correct as a group. Okay, so anything more? Tag me in the chat again if you'd like my attention. It's difficult to read through the paragraphs going on here. Oops. The Minitrack is similar to the racing. Yeah, Julian, I think that's where they got their inspiration. Really a racing driver's watch in many areas, especially when we look to the original Streamliner with that brown Fume dial and how the chronograph works. Question is whether or not this works with a time-only simple piece, or whether or not they could have gone in a different direction. I think it does just add that little bit of complexity to the piece, because without the text on the dial, it's a very, very, very sterile arrangement, but looks great. Love the cursive, love the, I mean, the script alone is something to take in. Okay, Blaine, this is beautiful. We've really had a great start, I think. The variety between these pieces so far, I mean, we had, streamliners, we've had divers, vintage, new, 1016s. Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, we've only been chatting for, 20 minutes. Next up, to Blue Shirt Buddha, to the Zelos Mako Meteorite. He just picked this up, and this brand is doing some serious damage. It's crazy how micro brands can just reach the larger arena. We're talking about Ming watches and others. I mean, how about that Ming controversy happening this week with the Messina Lab collab? That was interesting, and it's just ongoing. But Zelos as a brand, I mean, talk about a watch that's easy to get a hold of. They are punching way above their weight when you consider what they're putting into their watches. Meteorite dials, pearl dials. They're not afraid to experiment in this arena with all sorts of materials, and people love them. I don't know if they've caught onto the social media arena yet, or if they are, it's a smaller club. But as it is, they're doing a good job. And just looking into the details, I can see that by the looks of things, these minute marks are actually applied. I don't know how they do that, but I can see the appeal. It's definitely highly technical. It does, you can look by the case, does adopt many skin diver elements. So am I saying this right? It's the Mako, and there was mention, Brent saying, love my black tip. So that's another example in this area. Great quality for the price. Carrie Floyd says, yeah, I agree. I do agree. But the Meteorite dial, it's funny to think that in some categories, how ridiculously priced they are today. And in this arena, we'll be talking, it's not even $1,000, I don't think, and you get all of this. And I can imagine it's proper C3 Superluminova, all of those aspects too. Yeah, it's great. Truth Sears Guilty says that dinner is prepared. Roast chicken. That's great. Great. My Saturday evenings are generally cheese, and that's it. Cheese and alcohol with coffee, just two. Not to fill the stomach up too much in case I chunder on air. That's the way you do it. Zelos is a top micro brand. They definitely are up there. There's some really good examples in this category. There's let me try and think of a few more. Laurier is doing a great job. Again, would we call a brand like Ming a micro brand? It's difficult, but there are some that are seriously good value for money, and this is the area that I like. I'm really enjoying. It's pretty much why I picked up the Longines Big Eye. It's that area of value for money. What are you getting out for what you're paying at the end of the day, and are you getting more watch than you deserve for the price you're paying, basically? And Megan, I missed your comment on the Green Dragon that you love. It's a gorgeous piece. The Streamliner is a real gem. Speaking of which, there is another Moser later on that is, it's a close, I would say it's tied for first in this area. I think it's the Endeavor. Oh, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. Okay, next up, we're jumping to Nomos. We haven't featured Nomos in a very long time. And this comes in from Casper. Sorry about that, Magic Zoom. Magic Mouse, it's her time of the month again, I think. So we have, as far as I know, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, this is the Nomos Club, right? That's the name. And we have two that are fairly similar, but different. Now, he has 3 of these watches, I think, in his collection. And he wants to know my thoughts around this piece. What does it say? Okay, taking a hit from the coffee, and I'll get to it eventually. Megan mentions that she thinks that Zelos is more than a micro brand. Yeah, they have moved on in that area. I mean, and here's another example. We're chatting about micro brands. Nomos has been around since like roughly 1995, I think. They make all their movements in-house, but they make all their movements in-house. That sounds so bad. But they are, at this point in time, still not as appreciated by the masses as I think they should be. They should be appreciated by their efforts in going in this direction. Okay. Shaz says, love the Orange Seconds Hand. Yeah, I mean, if Orange Hand is watching, another great template that you'll enjoy. And it's also nice seeing the subdial. But if we are to address this piece, it adopts the elements of the California dial that you either love or you hate. Reverse California dial, as Roar of the Tiger says. Yeah, nice pop of color, as who was that, Brent mentioning. The Club Campus 38, Samurai, thank you for that. And that's just it. When I see this watch, that's the immediate reaction I get, is this would look superb on the wrist of a college graduate. And I think for us who are moving on in our years, it does add that bit of youth. There was a great talk with what's his name? Can't remember his name. There's a Hodinkee discussion. I think it was one of those Talking Watches episodes. And this watch featured in the episode as being a great all-rounder that you just throw on and you use on all occasions. I like the top half. And that's the thing. I'm wondering why they did that. Why did they put Romans at the base? Was it necessary? I think from a design point of view, what it does, if we just if we draw a rectangle between the 10, the 2, the 4, and the 8, you can see that the elements are pretty balanced, which is pretty impressive. You see that the 2 is almost the same width as the 4, and the same with the 8 and the 10. If we had to draw vertical lines, I don't know how I'll be able to highlight this with the mouse. Will I? No, mouse is not cooperating. But if we had to draw vertical lines from the 10 down to the 8, we can see, just maybe squint your eyes, you can see that they're almost equal width. Maybe that was the thinking they were going for. It's peculiar. But then, of course, when you start really breaking it down, you look at the width of the marks. Now the magic mouse wakes up. The width of the area here next to the width on this side is a little bit off, a little bit Air King for my liking. You might get that joke. Still, though, it's cool. And if we are to look at the 2, I think I'm more of a fan of the navy. But it does, I think, if we are to sum it up, it does inject that youth aspect into watch design, which we don't see very often. And how do you best get that as a result? A squeaking chair. I hope you can't hear that in the background. How do you best get that aspect? It's almost like it needs to be playful enough, but also serious in the way it's done. And this does feel very mature for how it's. I think that the sub-seconds addresses that pretty well. It gives it that sense of maturity. And then the youthfulness is the Romans versus the Arabics on the dial. Fun watch. I really like the colors too. And one of our men on the show, Tao Tillman, he's also a big fan, and he's sent one of the grails of Glasuta, which we will have a look at later. We haven't featured in a while. And Megan says it almost has a Porsche design feel to it. I think this example, not so much. This one, maybe. But there was also chatting about date windows on watches. Their new Neomatic with the way they arrange the date on the outside, kind of like a modern pointer date. Very good piece for that area. It's forward thinking. Brands are taking the initiative, looking a bit further in. That's probably the one aspect that I think Nomos deserves more love for, is that they are very forward thinking in this arena next to their competitors coming out of Switzerland. Okay, a bit too cartoony, Tippy says. I mean, that's it. If you don't want that youthfulness or that peculiarity, this is definitely not the watch for you. But speaking of which, we're jumping next to another example here. Turbo saying back to the humping. I said back to helping fund the new chair. Yes, I mean, you know what's funny? I need a wider desk now too. I've just realized how crammed everything is here. And so it goes. Once you get a new microphone set up, so you need a wider desk, and it just gets, the rabbit hole gets worse and worse and worse. And Darkstar says, sounds like a crusade. I mean, it does, right? Romans versus Arabics. Okay, we're moving to Chi-Town next. And Turbo, thank you for the super chat. I look forward to sharing your Vacherons later on. This is Chi-Town's favorite spot. He loves sharing photos here because, of course, no jumping or diving. This being the Seawolf. And it's one of the, I don't know if it's the topper edition. I can never keep track. I can never keep track of the variety of watches they release in this area, but I believe it's a topper edition of some kind. It was definitely maybe a Berry's Jewelers, I don't know, a limited edition of some. And this piece is one of the originals. I think what you can appreciate, similar to that Seamaster we saw earlier, is that this does, really hone in on where the dive watch began. It's a love it or hate it watch, I would say, similar to most we talk about. I like that you fitted it with a Jubilee here. Quarter Arabics are nicely balanced. There's no need for a date window. The loom is also cool. It feels more aged. It feels actually more legitimate to how we would see classic loom. But Megan mentioning awesome photo. It is superb. Chi-Town, I think you're based in San Diego. The Hodinkee edition, Chi-Town. Okay, I knew it was something like that. Thank you. Great colors, and it's seldom that you see an albino white diver nowadays. Everyone's going on the general blue on blue format or black dial arrangement. This is also something good. Can you imagine if actually, speaking of which, Omega just did a new white dial with I think it's a Tokyo edition, white dial blue bezel. Can you imagine if a brand like Rolex, say, were to bring out a white dial, white bezel Submariner? What would happen? I think they did back in the day. No, it was a GMT. It was an albino GMT that they did at one stage, very back in the early days when they were still prototyping. Okay. Shaitan, so you mentioned the Hodinky edition, and it is, as Truth Seers says, a nice Zodiac. And Shaitan says, got my first scratch on the mineral capped bezel. Is that what it is? I mean, I can't notice it here. I'm guessing it's pretty recent. And that's something we can discuss, bezel inserts and the materials they use, whether it's sapphire, whether it is acrylic, and all of that there. Okay, it's a Frankenstein. The Elgar Winter Group. Speaking of albinos, I've got to wake up a bit more before I start reading these more diverse comments. Okay, so I've got to carry on. Shaitan, superb, really great piece. And we're jumping next to Curtis, who shares an awesome watch that I was actually chatting with the Hort Take JCB earlier this week about. Was it this week? I think it was. This watch, we're chatting about value for money. This is the way to go. I think everyone should get one of these. I mean, I'm even considering it. Bulliver Lunar Pilot. And he mentions in the description that plus 2 seconds per year over the last 7 months. So this watch, accuracy-wise, is amazing. I believe it's a quartz. Correct me if I'm wrong. But this is the space watch on a budget, essentially. You're getting all of the, I think, even better traits, actually. When we look at those pushers on the sides, you're getting all of the aspects that you love out of the Speedmaster Professional in a superb, highly accurate piece. Please correct me if it's not a quartz, but I'm seeing kilohertz. I'm guessing it is a quartz arrangement. I'm pretty sure it is. Excellent value for money. I don't know what the prices are for these at the moment, but they're not in the cheap category. You can say that much. And you can just see that you can see the elements it shares. I mean, it's got an awesome history. Really nice arrangement. As we know, Curtis is a pilot. He's been piloting all his life, and he started with the GMT. It's a tech. Okay, there we go. So Roar of the Tiger says it's a tech quartz. Yeah, great. Really is great. So someone who's maybe starting out in this hobby wants to get a great watch that has some history, some heritage behind it, real history behind it. This is one to be looking at, I think. Highly recommend. I think the design of it is beautiful. I really like the aspects, like how they've put the numerals on the outside of the subdial instead of inside it. It does give it a bit more character, we could say. It also gives it a bit of asymmetry. Notice how they've addressed the quarters, and they've actually put little plots there in the centers. It's nice. Really nice. Simple arrangement. And of course, Bulliver has a superb history back there. Taking a hit from the Glen Keith. I'll be with you in a moment. Okay. I think the one downside looking at this watch is that it's highly polished everywhere, which could be a detractor for someone out there who is not a fan. And Truth says not like battery watches. One thing that's great about any quartz that has a subdial this size is that it's very difficult to notice the ticking seconds. That's my pet peeve, like many. I can't stand a ticking seconds hand if I can avoid it. So having a smaller subdial, you notice that a lot of the time when you're dealing with watches, even in the high horology category, when they have smaller subdials, their beat rates are very, very low. They're not 28,000, they're more like 15,000. And the beauty is you'd never see that stagger because of how small it is. And it's similar to a quartz watch. So that's one big thing. You wouldn't actually notice it's ticking per se, how you would notice it with a big seconds hand on a dial. Yeah, it's great. Curtis, awesome watch. And I think you were trying to measure the accuracy here. And you can see that as it's standing, it's bang on the money, 59, and it's right there, 223. It's great. Really nice. Curtis, you were joining us from San Diego. I hope you're still watching with us. Shaitan, that running second hand ticks 2 times a second. That's awesome. That is awesome. So it's even better than what you'd expect. Yeah, I'd love to experience this watch. I really would. I think I might pick one up just to experience. I think the design, the case design, the organic forms to it, nothing too aggressive around it. Very Glenn Keith, Hans, that's one of the best comments of the show so far. I freaking love it. I would recommend, ladies and gents, if you'd like to experience a very simple whiskey, Glen Keith is a great example. 100% with you on the quartz tick. Yeah, I get a twitch, Brent. I start twitching. Okay, next up we have a submission from D. I don't know if it's David, Dylan, Daniel. He signed off as D, so we're calling him D. He shares a Linda Verdelin. This is actually one of the last submissions I saved. Hard Black 3. I didn't realize, but I do remember the designer, that he is an industrial designer who came up with this, and he did work on the BO Sound 9000 for Bang & Olufsen. I'm sure most of you might know that arrangement there. But I always find it interesting when looking at how an industrial designer interprets a watch piece. A watch piece. What am I saying? It's 40 minutes and I'm still tripping over my words. Taking some coffee in. Again, I tell you, when it's presenting time, this week I've been spending most of the time getting this French Armed Forces video done. And it's, when you're reading off a script, it's very different to just chatting unscripted. Yeah, so like I was trying to say, I always find it a fascinating exercise looking at how an industrial designer addresses a watch design. Now, one thing I cannot do is design a watch. I've dabbled, I've experimented. Maybe I'm just not mature enough yet, but it's very difficult, especially when you're looking at so many amazing designs today. My rationale is there are so many great designs in the world today from all aspects. Some designs that have lasted 100 years and still look absolutely incredible. And the question is, how is it possible that you can do something as good as that in this arena? There's so many, there's so much variety. How are you going to put your name on a design and get that same kind of credit? It's very difficult. It's very daunting, put it that way. Shaz saying, just getting warmed up. That's it. Looks like USB ports on the right. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff. I don't understand what half of it does, but do enjoy the date window. There was mention in the chat a second ago. I think it's a big date. I think we have two separate windows. So we have a one and, of course, the full arrangement. So we have, it's very peculiar. Looking at how it's done, being offset is nice. Would it have worked better if it was in another position? You don't want to cut away from the 3 on the dial, but still, nice arrangement. I do enjoy the fact that they're using hex screws here, like, proper Allen key screws instead of the typical elements there. And it does feel like it's been constructed by a mechanic in a way. It has mechanical aspects to it. And then he sent in another shot here of it at an angle. On a deploy and clasp is great. Nice blue accents on the dial. Yeah, it's worth this. I don't even know what this does. Is this like a pressure release element, or is this just an evacuated area for the sake of, prototype looking, or can you in fact plug your USB in? I do not know. Curtis saying, just check the accuracy, still dead on. Yeah, it's amazing. I'd love to try on one of those pullovers. And Mr. GMT, thank you so much for the super chat. If you hear you need any chair, so I thought I would super chat. Thank you so much. And he mentions, would be love to have me on the Tim Wright live stream show, Mr. Two's place. Yeah, I mean, tell you what, time zones and everything else, I'm sure we could work something, but I've taken quite the back seat from live streams in general. The only one I join in is on the Tuesday. I think it's like my wake up for the week. But most definitely, we can chat about it. If you'd like to send me an email, love to have a chat about it. Mr. GMT, thank you again. That's so generous of you. For the new chair, it's going to happen. I need it badly. This thing, now that I have the new microphone set up, this mic picks up every little sound in the room. And the squeaking chair is like the first thing that it's so, get in the right position. You have to just sit still for an hour while you're recording. It's such a pain. Okay, lots of tags in the chat. Sorry about this. I'm missing everyone. The hex screws look as if they hold the strap. Yeah, they do, BDev. I've just been really enjoying mountain biking. Actually, I've gotten into mountain biking. That's been my latest hobby. Picked up a very, we call it very old. It's like 12 years old. It's a Gary Fisher superb bike. And I've just been really enjoying taking it to pieces and seeing how they assembled bikes back then. Lots of little facets and aspects to these components that do speak to that industrial nature, very high-tech sports feature. Don't know about the bezel, how easy it would be to grip. But that's the thing, when you're chatting about industrial design and watches, I think of Porsche design with the Ocean 2000 as a good example. Porsche design, they can go way too far into the minimalist category, where they reduce down to a point that the watch loses its base function. So we look at the bezel and say, how easy is this to grip from a practical point of view? Is it necessary to be so simplified? Would it not affect the wearer? Would it make the wearing experience difficult? Would it just impact the base function of the bezel when you're using it in its natural environment? It's difficult. And all these things, sadly, the industrial designer, as much as we try to be the masters of everything, what is it? What's the expression? master of none, but I can't even remember the definition. I'm still, oh my goodness, Tim Mosso's N95 mask. What a joy having you here. Your username, absolutely amazing. Factory, thank you so much. It's second time watching. You know what? These live shows, thank you for the super chat. These live shows are are a marathon, but they're good fun. And I have to thank everyone who sends these in. I mean, that's what makes these shows possible. I love discussing alternative pieces. I love seeing what everyone else is wearing. I think that's the real beauty of the community. There we go. Eric says, jack of all trades, master of none. Unfortunately, that's the industrial designer in many areas. Most of the time when we get projects, the turnaround time is short. It's like a couple of months. So we have to learn everything in that time period and make something. It can be very difficult when you're designing components, and watch design, dicey. Thank you so much for sending this in, Dan, Darren, Dylan, awesome watch. Jumping to Dan the Watchman, I still have a huge selection of pieces of his in a folder somewhere, but he sent in this beautiful Le Coutre with a Valjoux 72. Stunning. And we talk about the Type 20 aesthetic and those beautiful numerals. It almost looks like a watch. I'd imagine this is a watch from the 50s in a sense. And the Turbo T2, jack of all trades, Marshall. No, thank you for that. Thank you so much. Richard Westwood says, thoughts on the new Explorer 36 two-tone? Jack, great question. Should I bring up an Explorer while we're chatting about it? Do I have one close at hand? Not on this page, I don't think. Explorer 2. What do I have? I think it's worth discussing. No, I swear I had a whole handful of them a second ago. Let me just pull up the 1016 again from Nick. The new 36 Explorer 2 two-tone. It's so difficult to put your head into that and try to understand what they were trying to do. I have this belief, at least. They wanted to celebrate the Explorer 2's anniversary. That was supposed to be the case. There's still, excuse me, everyone, as I jump to this. It's a nice question. So I believe in order to celebrate the Explorer 2 anniversary, they sort of went the other way and celebrated the anniversary with the original Explorer, which is a bit strange. But anyway, now what they should have done, at least if I had creative control, was to give it a gilt, kept the gilt dial, but left the watch in steel. I think that's a very special way of giving a tribute to the watch in this arena. But they decided to go two-tone, and they've done it before. I mean, with the Sea Dweller and other examples, GMTs, Submariners. They're obviously, it's a very, should we say, easy way of approaching any watch in the category. And I think to give it that pop of luxury, precious metals is a good way of doing it. Whether or not it works, still difficult to tell at the moment. And interesting to see what happens if people are actually going to be interested in the watch, because for what it is, it's a jazzed up perpetual. It's running into and beyond date just territory, and you're getting a watch that has all of the quirks. Does it actually deserve the price tag? Is huge. It's like 8K, I'm thinking, in pound sterling. It's a lot of money. I still believe that the Explorer deserves to stay in steel, just as it is, the base metal. But then we're now at a stage where we think the bluesy Submariner is timeless. And that was introduced in the 70s, I believe, or the late 70s era. So you think, okay, well, in the next 20 years, maybe the two-tone Explorer is going to be a thing that will last. Difficult to know. So it's a very good question, though. I still cannot wrap my head around it exactly. But I believe that essentially it was their way of celebrating the Explorer 2 release by not celebrating the Explorer itself, the Explorer 2 as a watch. Who knows if they bring out something new later this year? I hope they do. I really hope they do. That watch deserves so much more love. If they just went back to the 1655 aspect and made it a little bit more modern, gee, that would be a smash hit. Anyway, that was from Richard, I think. That's super chat. Thank you for that, really. And I've missed all the other comments going on here. That was a wide open. Chaitan says industrial designer equals opposite of a doctoral candidate. That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's it. We've got fingers in every pie, basically. That's the downside of being an industrial designer. You have amazing projects happening at once, but then as you're finishing one, so you're already working on the next, and it's a mess. Forbin Explorer looks so much better without the shiny chrome Arabics. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. I'm sure I could do an episode just discussing my loves and loathes around the modern watch and what they could do, but I mean, it's neither here nor there. the brand only goes in one direction. We can see that there, that they only stick to what they want to continue. And it's funny how the Instagram and their social platform is very fixated on their heritage stuff that they like sharing. But then they're also very dogmatic with staying consistent with the modern stuff as they move. Okay, so beautiful JLC, not a JLC, an LC, excuse me. It's a stunning watch, very simple. I would imagine it's like 36 mils in size. These classic chronographs. As I did mention, it's running a Valjoux 72. Gorgeous. Love the numeral arrangement and the balance there. It is pretty stunning. Okay, going to carry on. I'm missing you all in the chat. I see the ranchers joining us. Welcome, Clive. And chatting about the two-tone again. Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile question that everyone should discuss in the chat. It's something that's going to divide opinion until the end of time, I believe. Dear Artifact up next. If you're not following him on social media, I've recommended him about 15 times, I think, at this point. He takes some of the best photos on this platform. His shots are masterful. Every time he sends me a selection, I could swear I could use it as the cover. I think they are ideal. And this being the original, the Black Bay 58 gilt. And this is actually a good thing to cover. When you say gilt dial, this is considered a gilt with the handset and everything there. How beautiful are these photographs? I have to mention that these are at least like 25 megabytes in size each, as I mentioned before. You can literally see the skin coming off his fingers and the grit in between the fingerprints. I love it. Chatting about a gilt dial, you notice that the way the paint has been applied, paint has been directly applied to this dial. So technically, it's not a legitimate gilt the way we would call it today. The process of, I've mentioned this at the beginning of the show, the process of actually gilting a dial is the reverse negative. The way you can tell if it's a legitimate gilt is that it has this almost fluffy edge to the way the text is done. You notice how it doesn't feel as crisp. And that's down to just how it's applied. It's a reverse process. Instead of application, it's reduction, which I find amazing. We're talking about industrial design and all that stuff. It's one of the real, true, original methods of applying paint to the dial. Since this has been applied, you can see it's raised and much sharper. So there are pros and cons. The beauty of a true gilt dial is that the text will play in the light, where this is flat. But then saying that, I think there's something so nice to enjoy about the raised texture of text on the dial too. That's something that I'm really getting a kick out of, by the way, is just enjoying off-axis viewing and seeing how the raised text on the dial works in the light. Amazing. And again, the best photos, as Mark mentions in the chat, the best photos on this platform. It is just insane. I don't know how you do it. I've asked you before, but it's incredible. I think you have scratched the big issue is when it's such a high quality photo, you can see every little flaw. And this looks like an Explorer 39. I don't know. Now, Dear Artifact's also on the hunt for the 36 Explorer, similar to me. We're all in that same category. He's really, really loving what they've done with the new release. How cool is this? I mean, it's just incredible. I think I feel so humbled that these kinds of photos are shared that we can enjoy. This is all like serious wallpaper material stuff. Dear Artifact, you should make a coffee table book. I know I've been told I should too, with all the submissions for the show. But I really think you could make a killing with a coffee table book on the watches that you take photos of. And I think I've mentioned this before, that your collection is very focused on the parts that I like. Field watch heavy. You've got divers, you've got Speedmasters, very simple pieces, but they're all snowflake hand, as Al says. Yeah, it's a love it or hate it thing. I recommend. Oh, and I should mention to everyone who's joining now that next week is the Watches of the French Armed Forces video. It's been a whole year in the making. I wish I was joking. It's taken a year to get done. And in it, it's just an information dump. Everything from Napoleon Bonaparte all the way through the Second World War, First World War, all the way through to the Marine Nationale and their bizarre pieces, pilot chronographs, and of course, Tudor MN is featured. There are about 4 notable watches from the Tudor MN line back then. This being based on and I'm going to butcher this, it's the 5524, I think was the reference, the original Big Crowns in that area. Yeah, it's just great. And there are already song lyrics going on. Open eyes for a different view and nothing else matters. That sounds like a butchering of Bohemian Rhapsody from Eric Bell. Right. So, Metallica. Okay, got it. So let's carry on. Beautiful watch. I think we have another handful of Black Bear 58s to enjoy later. Jumping to Demetrius next. Speaking of explorers, I should have seen this in the comments. This was great. This is not just any 39mm Explorer. This was bought on the day that the Explorer 39 was discontinued. Now we know what that means. And I love it. This is something that Curtis, who's in the chat, has also experienced, picking up the last of the Submariners, just as the Super Case was discontinued in that one digit format. So this is the last of the 39s. So of course that drives the value up of these watches. Not that I think he's interested. He picked it up on the day this piece was discontinued. So I really like that. And of course he's based in Greece, so it's just blue skies, blue seas, just freaking amazing, just unfair, because the UK has decided to go into its 8th phase of winter at the moment. So it's that's just the way it is, hey? I tell you, I really wish we had summer this side of the world. It's almost like the UK has decided, nah, we're not going to do it this year. The 39mm Explorer, my favorite. What a time. All Bears Are Gay says, thanks for bringing an adult atmosphere to the YouTube scene. Oh, geez. So I'm only 27, so I don't know how adult it gets here, but yeah, explaining life with a no life experience. Yeah, I try to keep it very watch focused, which can be tiresome for some, I would imagine. I don't know how entertaining this is. I don't know. I really appreciate it, but I don't know how anyone can sit and listen to me talk for like 3.5 hours. But the beauty is with these shows especially is that variety. And I love the fact that we get to share what everyone else is wearing instead of only what one person or 3 people are wearing. You know what I mean? Russell says, what do you mean winter? This is UK summer. Yeah, I've only been here for 5 years, 6 years. It's probably been the worst I've ever experienced it. I'm living on the South Coast, like you, Russell. So it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Another thing I'd like to highlight that I've noticed mentioned by a lot is people say that this watch is a matte dial, but it's actually a gloss dial, which I find pretty incredible. You can only see it in, this is a pretty good example, in certain lights. You can see it's reflective. The way the crystal works with a gloss dial, it can give off the impression that it's matte, which is something. But my wearing experience with the 39, I mean, the question is, has it grown on me over time? Was it a watch that sang? And now I'm in this weird phase where I'm thinking to myself, will I like the 36? Was it the aesthetics of this watch that I didn't like, or was it the size? It's only one way to find out, though, right? Only one way. I've got to experience the 36. Lots of things to enjoy here. I do really like, one thing I have to give props about this watch is the way that they've addressed the Explorer text at the base of the dial, not at the top. I'm a fan of how they balanced it. They balanced it out so nicely here. And I think that's kind of lost with a new one. And also the Oyster Perpetual text is like insanely long on the new one. And it's just some weird little things that only the real pedantic eye, again, text on watches, that's something else you can pick apart for the rest of your life. No escape from reality. I don't know what's going on in the chat. More Metallica lyrics, I guess. Hulk bezel also goes matte. Yes, right on. You're right. You're right. Nefarion would also attest to that. Andreas says, I'm 19. To me, you're an old guy. Andreas, to get into this hobby at that age, can tell you what, you're in good stead. I've said so many times, I wish I got into watches as a teenager in high school. You know, there's so much that I missed in that place. And the best thing of all is that if I had, can you imagine what my thoughts or mindset would be like now at this stage, 10 years later? So I've noticed there are lots of youngsters who join in, and the fact that you're doing it, I think you're going to be so better off in future because you learn just where the great watches are, where the watches are that you can avoid, and where you can spend good money on and get a good watch as a result. Unfortunately, can be very daunting when you don't have any advice. So you take it from everyone else's experiences. I think that's a big positive that you can take away. And Megan says confusion, talking about me and my Explorer love. It is. It's full on confusion. Demetrius, I love it. We're not done yet because he just picked up a new watch, chatting about the hunt for the next watch. He picked up this Zin U1 DS. This is a peculiar watch. I might rip it apart a little bit. I find it so strange. He mentions that he feels it's like a Jackson Pollock painting on the dial. Andrea says, I ain't complaining. I mean, yeah, you're getting all the information at your age. And he said Tippy says, I got into watches at 15. God, congratulations, man. Congratulations. Tell you what, you have hell of a way. Same with Megan, actually. Megan got in at a young age too. So, and Megan's roughly my age, 20, 25, 26. Blue shirt, 1 hour in, time for whiskey. You're right, sir. Thank you for the super chat. I have a drop of Glenkeith. Going pretty sober over the last few weeks. I've decided it's time to cut back. Getting into summer, got to cut back on the alcohol. A question to ask. Oh, single malt. Oh, that wasn't the easiest swallow. Question to ask is, will the shows be impacted if I don't have alcohol by my side? Who knows? Just remember that the last show we had was on the Philips auction, and that one was cursed. That was 4 hours and 10 minutes, I think. Holy cow. Started with the headset disconnecting and not having sound, and then the laptop completely disconnected, so I had to use the phone to read the chat, and that was a... Talk about the Philips auctions, I think from now on we can say are cursed. So let's chat about this gadget. So he feels that this, Demetrius mentions that he feels that this is very much like a Jackson Pollock painting, the way the dial's been done. My first impression when I saw this watch actually revealed, I thought it's almost as if the watchmaker was like, I'm having a really bad day. You know, it's like he's been given his notice that he has to leave within the week, and he's just gone to town with the dial. That's how I believe it. It feels, at least. But then you think, sorry about this, Magic Mouse, her time of the month. You think of the application of this watch, what it's built for, tegimented steel. It also gives off this, it's actually very conflicting, because you know that this metal is so scratch resistant. It's a juxtaposition. You've got a seriously scratched up dial with a clean, superb steel case. I love it. Double shot. Here we go again. Yeah, Megan, that's it. I have to be careful. I have to be really careful. I might have a coughing fit. Forbin says that Grayson white at the 3 o'clock marker next to the date is kind of jarring. Yeah. So there's some good examples in this category. I think the one I featured on that episode this week about date windows, the U50 just looks beautiful. Actually, we have one later on. Funny enough, we have a U50. Stunning. Blackboard. That's it. This is very good. I'm liking these. Okay, should we actually rate this watch? Maybe that's a bad thing. Should we rate whether or not we like it? Definitely polarizing. What I'm getting from this, I mean, Zinn is so forward thinking with the way they, attach their dials. The typical German approach is almost, we could say, again, I'm not being like specific on the German people, but the design approach in many categories is almost humorless. There's not much whimsy with a lot of their approaches, the way they do their products. So here we see a very tool-specific watch, which is clear. You have this super ultra high-tech steel, pretty much the most scratch-resistant steel. It's proper submarine steel they use on these pieces. And then you have a dial that is the reverse. It's completely scratched up. I think they did it deliberately. It's pretty funny. Yeah. So it's definitely not for everyone. And of course, you have the elements on the dial. The U50, I love the design, the way the batons, the hands are done. It's definitely a love it or hate it thing. It's right out of the 1980s. I don't know what you would call these hands. I've called them condom hands before. That's probably not the best way to describe them. Cricket bat hands, we can call them if we want to be a bit more politically correct. Nice looking watch though. I love the U1s and the U50s. They are pretty amazing. Actually been looking at one lately. Okay, BDev, flipping the bird hands. That's it. I mean, that's it. That's probably the better way of saying it. You don't want to say condom hands, right? And the next, Megan mentioning the watch auction next in June. Oh, the Hong Kong auction. You realize there's like over 300 lots. We did like 230, and that was 4 hours. I wouldn't make it. I would die. That is the truth. Syringe hands, I think that's the traditional way of saying it, Chaz. Syringe hands, Lego hands. Yeah, that's it. So Demetrius, well done on getting this piece. I think it's a bold move to pick up this watch. It is definitely not one that I think the community will go after. That's the thing. Many of us prefer the safe designs, which is also kind of detrimental because there's so much fun to be had in this category. But I think we can call this watch the juxtapositions, and just because you have this polished, you have the beautiful clean steel, and then you have this chalkboard, aggressively brushed dial. They're known as Lego hands and markers. Mason, if that's the case, I think that's amazing. Okay, jumping next. Demetrius, thank you. Congratulations on both of these watches. Actually, your Explorer is another example here. To Dr. Bob next. Completely different category. Just entirely different. We featured a diamonded Patek Nautilus earlier. So Dr. Bob went and tried this on at the boutique, being the reference 5719G, so white gold. Boutique edition prefers a house in the Cotswolds, he says. This watch pretty much costs the price of a house in the Cotswolds. And he did also mention, this is quite a surprise, that the watch is actually a lot more subtle than you think, even though it's completely blinged out. I love how we go from A to B in this space, don't you? We go from the Tudor Black Bays and Seikos and stuff, and we just jump to a fully diamonded out Patek. This, of course, being all in-house, which adds triple to the value of the watch. No thanks, as many say. Yeah, it's a talking point, to say the least. Why the date? What I am liking, a lot of the modern Nautiluses, I don't know if this does it, but a lot of the modern pieces are actually putting framing around the date windows, which I can get behind. I like that. God, it's so bright. I don't know if it's just me. God, my eyesight. So, I mean, just you have to appreciate the application of the baguettes. Just imagine being the person responsible for applying all of this stuff on the watch. It's ludicrous. It is just nuts. I mean, even the batons at the base of the dial, all the quarters are baguettes too. It's hectic. I wonder why they didn't put baguettes on the shoulders. I don't know, but I think it's great. I think it's just bizarre. It's, the rapper's watch. It's the boxer's watch today. Not for everyone. I would say this is a little bit too in your face, too garish for what it is. But you know what? Watching Finance, I saw your comment earlier. You made the cut. We will be seeing your watches shortly. Thank you for the super chat. This is going to be good. We have a lot more cool variety coming up. Lucian, welcome. Great to have you here. Yeah, we're just keeping on rolling. I will take the house in the Cotswolds, as Mark says. Yeah, that's just it. That is just it. Little Uzi Vert vibes. Patek. Yeah, I mean, talking about rappers and everything there. So it's something to. It's a real diamond jubilee watch. It's very aggressive visually, plays with the light nicely. But he did say it doesn't play with it completely just destroys the light when it hits it. He did say that it's a lot more subtle than he thinks in person, and he had a bit of a laughing face behind it. So this is good. Right, Dr. Bob, thank you for this. We do have more Nautiluses on later that are a lot more casual, a lot more subtle. This is rare. I wouldn't call it attractive to everyone there. Okay, moving on to Dylan. Now, he sent in a shot of him playing Borley Fireball, pinball machine from the 1980s. And he loves taking these loom shots, and this is awesome. So this is on the pinball machine, and Seamaster Professional. I think this is the only professional Omega that we are featuring. No Speedmasters at all for the show. How crazy is that? Some weeks we go all in when it comes to Explorers and GMTs and Seamaster Pros and all the rest. And this week, bare, dry, nothing. Tim writes, I'd mentioned in the beginning, I saw your clip on the new Explorer 36 and I loved it. Really good. I would highly recommend. I think you have one of the first videos on the watch on the platform. It's really nice hearing your opinion on the piece. I am so close to considering picking one up at this point, just because I think the size is great, and whether or not I'll like it, still very indecisive, because I didn't get on well with the 39, but should be good. So well done with that. Would highly recommend, ladies and gents, if you'd like to check out his clip. So yeah, nice lighting. As we know, Dylan takes amazing shots. He's known as 121 click bezel on the page. And he loves taking loom shots and he's off-angle photographs. And this is him at the pinball machine. Great size. It wears nicely for him. So the question is, where is this watch going? How do we feel about the 42 mil Seamaster Professional? And this being the real outlier in this category too. We have, I hate calling it the unfinished dial, but that's the impression I had when it was released. The silver dial with the blue accents. It almost feels like on the production line, they were just like, hey, this looks cool. Let's just throw it in. And BDev says, I love the 36. I mean, I've always been a fan of 36. Such a supple wrist, Eric says. I think Eric is in love with this wrist. Dylan, watch yourself. He does look married, though, so you might have a problem there, Eric. This is so cool, though. Check the loom shot, too. I don't know how you managed to get that in this lighting. Still amazing. So again, as I say, this is the only, as far as I know, the only professional shot I think we have. There's so much. The variety is huge this week, actually, going all over the shop. Dylan, thank you for this. Love your submissions as always. Just also remember that he's a pilot, and all of his watches have this aviation theme. I think this is the only outlier in his collection when it comes to aviation watches. Okay, next up to Eric. Eric in the chat there saying, pay and dive immediately, being the Seiko Paddy, the Paddy turtle. And what the hell have you done this time, Eric? Was this bleach too? Tell you what, Eric is come back. Eric is definitely not one who caresses his watches. As most of us know, Eric was a Navy diver, saturation diver. He's spent more of his life in the ocean than on land. And he has every respect for all dive watches. He's destroyed a Sea Dweller 43 before that we've had to enjoy. He's bleached bezels. He has oil filled his Casios to make them more legible, more waterproof, and so it goes. It's a continual thing. The Paddy turtle is great though. I mean, it's a real little gem in this area. Would recommend someone starting out in this hobby. You can appreciate the size, the presence. It's a great little dive watch. And Truth Seers, Dankeschön. That's, I don't know what you're getting compliment on. Andrea says, make it 39mm, no date, a steel dial, $500 less, perfection. Chatting about the Seamaster, yeah, there are lots of little things we can touch on in that area. It's not a watch for everyone, unfortunately. There are lots of polarizing aspects to the watch. And funny, we featured the original Seamaster at the beginning of the show. So I think they're going in a good direction. Seeing how they did that new James Bond model in titanium, very, very nice. Oh, and of course, Design Atelier has just joined us saying that's my favorite. This is your Seamaster fund is going towards this watch, right? I'd love to know if you'd like to comment more on it, Design Atelier. What about this watch speaks to you so much? From a designer's point of view, why do you love the colors so much? And is it to do with this almost steel effect that the dial has next to the bracelet and the case? I would love to know your thoughts about it. It's always good to hear from the person's perspective there. Okay, and catching up, I saw Tim leave a comment saying, thank you. I was first to get the Explorer 36 in New York. Amazing. Congratulations. I wanted the two-tone, but could not resist the steel. Yeah, there's been lots of, I mean, we were chatting about the two-tone a second ago. Lots of talk about how it's going to sit in this area and what it means for us in this Explorer camp. Will it change in the next 20 years? Will we feel like the two-tone Explorer was as good or is as good as the Bluesy Submariner? And so it is. Hitting the choke manifold at 98 meters. Yeah, I mean, Eric has some stories to tell. Yeah, and Megan says Eric loves his dive watches. He sure does. Okay, so we've chatted about the Seiko. We've got some pretty amazing ones. There was one sent in by a gentleman called Mark earlier on, and it's a really interesting one that I think we should talk about. Okay, moving on next to Ernest. He sends in a shot of his bronze Oris. This is also a new pickup from him, I think. This is a running theme for the show, hunting for the next watch. This is a new pickup for him, the bronze pointer date. Speaking again about dates on watches, I think the pointer is such a good approach. They deserve a lot more love in this area, and I think more brands should be hopping onto them. Especially when you're dealing with a sparse dial. I think that was the one thing I addressed in the video, that when you have a sparse dial on a watch, adds so much more character and complexity to it. And there was another shot here of it in closer person. Of course, we don't know how the bronze is going to age over time, whether or not it's going to go as green as the dial, basically, right? It has this funky, I mean, if you're on Instagram, highly recommend following Watch Humor. What's another one? I think Watch Humor is one of the best, and they love taking the mick out of bronze watches. It's pretty funny. You know, the expectations versus reality. How does it end? Okay, I've actually been looking at one of these. I almost jumped on it before picking up the Longines. I almost jumped on this watch. Purely down to the size, I think it's superb. 40 mils. It's got all of the classic traits. It's got that beautiful engine turn bezel. Love the pointer date. I think there's so much to enjoy. And they're still smashing it as a brand. Oris is doing so many good things. In-house movement. Their prices are still very reasonable. I would say, I mean, being an owner of an Oris, getting on board with this hobby and getting your first Swiss watch, This is the kind of example that I think you should be looking at. Truth Seers, pure class. Yep, I agree. So Designer City says that the SMP combo is the one with the most minimal approach while showing refinements of the dial. I like it. I like it. This is what the great thing about this space. I mean, if it was me, I wouldn't pay that model a second look. But I love the fact that there's someone out there who is so drawn to it next to the others in this area. Similar to this, I love the pointer date, but for a bronze watch, the bronze just turns me off completely. And that's purely down to the design guy in me saying, well, it's going to oxidize and it's not the purest of metals considering. Speaking of which, the new Tudors with the sterling silver, don't know how those are going to result, but again, it's the fact that they're going to fade over time and their colors might not live up to expectations. I love the way this looks now, but depending on where you wear it, how you wear it, whether or not you keep it clean, might impact how it ages. So it's a goodie. Tippy says that the movement of Oris is in-house designed, but not in-house made. Huh, like it. Watch and Pray said, oh, Watch and Pray, the Oxblood is amazing. That wine dial, I think I featured it on that video. That's a beautiful piece. That came out just recently. So it's Oxblood with a bronze case. Looks amazing. Okay, Tal also saying Oris used to be rather boring brand, but I have to admit they make some funky new stuff. Yeah, they're definitely reaching. It's almost like they're reaching the right audience engagement. They've nailed it on social media. They are grabbing the right influencers, we call them influencers, to get attention to the brand. And I think it's great, really good. Value for money, what you're getting. The size is nice and contemporary, and so it goes. I think there's lots to take away. More brands should be looking at what Oris is doing as a company. Okay, and we've got a few more, I think, later on. We've got a vintage model in a sec, I think. Yeah, we do. We have a vintage RS65, which should be fun. Okay, next we're jumping to Flieger 777. As we can tell by his name, 777, he is a Boeing pilot. He's been traveling all through last year and this year, excuse the zoom. And this was his Air King shot over the Palm in Dubai. You can see it in the background there. And I love it. It's so cool seeing a pilot's experience, in the metal, in first person. Love the cherry dial. It is awesome, Brent. I agree. Did I say that? I did say Dubai, right? So the Palm being in Dubai, he's been traveling, hopping all over the place. And the Air King, I mean, Dylan, 121 click bezel, has one of these watches too. And I mentioned the Air King effect on that Nomos earlier. You notice the spacing here. This is the one gripe I always have with this piece. But the question is, where is it going to be in the next few years? Are we going to see that this watch rises in value? Excuse the squeaking chair. Is this watch going to rise in value over time because it's so quirky? History tells us that these outliers are the ones that are going to get more attention over time, and so it goes. The Air King is underrated, Megan says. I love the history behind the watch, especially given to RAF pilots and all this stuff, and it's just been sidelined. They could make such a killing if they were to maybe bring out the turnograph again in a similar fashion. The Air King with a turnograph bezel and all that stuff, all the fives. They do. I mean, flipping, that's it. Hey? The Flieger elements, that's what I kind of like about it, is it does have these Flieger aspects to the watch, which is so unlike what we see with modern Rolex today. Air King is specific, yeah. So it does give you this impression of being a Flieger watch, a Flieger pilot watch. That's pretty much the same thing. A Flieger pilot watch, but at the same time, it's a Rolex. It feels more traditional, even though it's very modern. Chatted about it a lot. Is that a UFO cloud? It sure is, Russell. That's a sign that there is life out there. Okay, going to carry on through to the next. And Flieger, being a pilot again, decides to choose the CHNR, flying over Zaragoza, which is in Spain. I did not realize that, of course, being new to Europe and the Northern Hemisphere. This is cool. I've never seen this combo before. He has strapped it to a leather, looks like a purple leather strap. Very funky, but I like it. And the CHNR is one of the coolest. It's a two-tone watch, but with a strap, it looks so dressed down. And it's amazing for that reason. Watching finance, after you pointed out the 5 and 55 can't look, yeah, I'm afraid I've ruined a lot of people's experiences with that. Pointing out the 5 and the 55 changes your view of the watch completely. It sucks. Sadly, well, you can appreciate my the pain I experience, I guess. Integrated leather aftermarket. Yeah, so it's got its own end link. I feel like This might be a hollow end link he's attached with it. You can love it, you can hate it. It's definitely not one for everything. He generally wears his watches on the bracelet, so it's cool seeing that he's mixing it up. But it's nice. It's really cool. And the CHNR as a package, really stunning piece. I think they've hit it out the park. This example especially, it's so casual for what it is. Taking a hit from the coffee. Pepe Silva says, yucky strap. Yeah, it looks like it's purple. It's definitely not a strap for everyone. But yeah, we're featuring a Rolex for a change. How's that? There's lots more. We do have quite a handful of them later on. But still, great shot. And of course, we can't go without the Kermit. I don't think we have any Hulk Submariners. And he says here that he was boarding in Singapore. As we can see all the instruments in the background. Pilots. I've really been enjoying watching clips on flying, jets especially. And just the procedure that it goes through. And you can spend your entire life flying one plane because they are that complicated. And I find it amazing. Andreas, that's the man-made island of Dubai. Yeah, it is. It sure is. I don't know if Russell was joking with us, but, you always have to take everything with a pinch of sarcasm on these shows. So yeah, this being the Kermit, I don't think this is the Flat 4. I think it's the last generation of this model. So I'm guessing around 2010, 2011. Thomas Burnett loves this watch. And there's a handful on the show who love these pieces. The aluminum bezel is going to age in its own way. And I think it deserves a bit more attention for that reason. It sits in that neo-vintage ballpark. The Hulk can be a bit playful, where this has a bit more purpose to it. Being the 50th anniversary is also very nice. Oh, hold on a sec. JCB, has he joined us? Hold on a second. Sorry for that, everyone. Let's see. I think he said hi in the chat, and I missed completely. Joining in from it's early morning in Oz, of course. JCB, I lost your comment, but welcome. Great having you here. Hope you enjoy your Sunday, and you get out with the fam and enjoy the good weather that side. Yeah, it's a good time. Pepe is saying the OG Kermit is the best screen. Yeah, it is. It's very nice. And I would have thought that Rolex might have taken the feather out of Tudor's cap when they did the Harrods model with the olive bezel with their later pieces. I'm finding that the green, we've mentioned this so many times before, the green is just so bright with the new models, the Hulks and the Cermits and all of those. Still very, very nice. Shaitan says, I recommend the channel Just Planes for anyone who likes aviation. I will check it out for sure. Thank you for that, Shaitan. So yeah, great pairing. Fligo always shares a selection of watches from wherever he is in the world. And this time around, we don't have the usual Explorers from Hong Kong and all of that there. We have nice selection. Flippin' Zippo is up next. And he sent us the first G-Shock, I think, of the show. Do we have any more? I don't know. But this is the Herschel, I don't know, they make so many limited editions, I can't keep track. Herschel / Casio G-Glide Club, Gliding Club, okay? And he mentions that he's based in Alberta, and he says that named after the village my great-grandparents homesteaded. It's insane. It's just insane. I love the color of this piece, and I've always found this, the way that they've wrapped this metal cage around it to be fascinating. Reminds me of, in cars, when you've got roll cages inside them, it almost has that same effect. And if this is for hand gliding, as in G-Glide, I think this is where they're trying to go with this piece. The hang glider has that horizontal bar that wraps around that you hold on to. Maybe that's what they were going for. I don't know, but I love the protective aspect that this evokes, we could say. Yeah, can't go wrong with the G-Shock. I'm loving that they are getting more and more popular here, especially. Or is this an aftermarket car? I really don't know. I really, really don't know, but tell me. And on the case back, it says you can surf later. And he mentioned that there are not many waves in Alberta where he's based. Now, I don't know if this means surfing as in going into the sea, or if this is like sky surfing. I don't know if that's like a casual one-liner that they like mentioning. Who knows? But I do love the design of this. I find it to be even more shock-proof. That the way the horizontal lines work, that's cage around it is great. I dig it. Rolex Explorer 39 as showcase watches. Welcome, James. It's great having you here. We've been chatting for a while, and got to congratulate you on your new pickup. I cannot wait for that video. I'm sure the cat's out of the bag with a lot of people, but if you don't want it revealed, we'll keep it quiet for the moment. A good G-Shock is like a cat video on YouTube. It's not much, but you just got to love it, Tao says. Yeah, there's lots to take in. I've been enjoying just browsing. There's so many. It's almost exhausting seeing just how many G-Shocks are on the market. And I need to get one. This is getting serious. It has to happen in the next few months because there's just too much to enjoy here. Don't you think? I love the color too. It's such a nice drab finish. Okay, can chat about this for hours. Flip and Zipper, thank you for this. Superb watch. Really dig it. I've never seen this before. This might be, for all I know, Tide Times. And this might be a moon phase. I think I'm getting somewhere. Maybe I'm not. Okay, moving on next to Frank, another Rolex. I've had some good hands-on time with this watch, so this will be fun to talk about. So he mentions that I let go of all of my subs. Oh, I think he said all of my subs. He had a couple of Submariners. I don't know, but the 41 mils, the latest models, And he says due to the bulky clasp. So he is struggling to find love with that bulky clasp. It's gone up to like 18 mils now, I think. No? It's wider. I don't know. 99% of people who wear these watches do just fine with the Easy Link option versus Glide Lock, although it's cool. So that's the thing. The Yacht Master in this category, there's lots to talk about. The blinged out Submariner in many ways. I had a great time wearing this for a couple of hours, a couple of months back, actually. Okay, catching up with the chat, and then I'll chat more about it. Another Rolex tower. Can you believe it? And Tim, great having you here. I hadn't said hi. G-Shock, it's nice to have you. We've got some more out. I know you're not a fan of these sorts of watches. We've got some good outliers coming up later on, like Moses and Blancpain. A beautiful, as far as I know, it might be a Le Mans, a Blancpain Le Mans from watching World Finance. Chaz says this model comes with a bumper for the dial. You can also buy bumper separately. Great. That's awesome. And I see Thomas Burnett is joining us. Welcome, Thomas. Yeah, so let's chat about it. The Yacht Master. This one is very dressy. The one thing that just blew me away is how polished it is. You expect to see Rolex very, subtle, especially in this professional line. You don't expect it to be so shiny, but it's insanely shiny. The lugs, the center links, even the bezel is pretty glossy, and the dial, of course. Love the baby blue paired with the gray. It's very cool. And it's a platinum bezel insert, which is charming. And Thomas Burnett in the house. It's great. It is great. And talk about great design. I mean, it does have its own niche. I don't think it's a watch for everyone, but I do appreciate what they're doing here, especially with things like how they've done the lugs and the case. Much more elegant, dressed up for what it is. It's not squared off. Beautiful. So to let go of your Submariners, the latest models, for going back in time to a micro extension. What's it called? I can never get it right. The Easy Link extension instead of the Glide Lock. Pretty brave call. Pretty brave. Watching Finances Le Mans. Awesome. I so look forward to sharing it. It's a real outlier in this zone. And again, I don't know if James has mentioned the watch that he picked up, but I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. The Explorer you're chatting about. Okay. I'm thinking about the other watch, the one with the amazing movement. Okay, we're moving on next to George. Frank, thank you for sending this in. I've always loved. I think we've always featured a Yacht Master somewhere on these shows, whether it's a 2 or the old one, the original Gen 1. Jumping to George next, and he has. Oh, this is so cool, man. His photographs are amazing. This almost became the cover, and I think a couple of months, maybe about a month ago, 2 months ago, we featured one of the watches that we will see in a second as the cover. It's a Breguet Marine. But I do love how he has this theme with the watches he chooses. They're not the typical watches in this category. And this being the World, I called it the World. It's the Ocean Commitment. I called it World because of that. So basically profits out of the sales of these watches go towards, and it's something that Blancpain does love to talk about, is how much they're pumping into more ocean awareness programs and the support they're going into with regards to documentaries covering the situations going on in the sea. And it's the modern direction. I think the CEO has said that he wants to go in that area where they're not just about making the dive watches. They also want to address the environment that the dive watches are placed, which I like. It's a very nice step. Beautiful watch. And mention about the strap. Scott says he likes the strap. It's a nylon strap. I think it comes supplied with. And did he send another one from the angle? We can really enjoy it. It's a great piece. Who doesn't love a Blancpain? It's a real gem. Love how clean and simple. The photograph's also beautiful. We can see all the little elements on the dial. It's got a sunburst dial to it as well. Does the date window work on this piece? That's the question. 4:30 position. I had a couple of gentlemen. Sam, if you're watching the show, he did send me a message saying, I fell off my chair when you said that you like the 4:30 position on a watch. It works for some pieces, not for everyone. But yeah, that's what BS just mentioning. Speaking of date windows, how do you feel on this watch? I don't really like it at the 4:30, if I'm honest. I would prefer it at the 3. Why does this watch need a date? That's the question. It's a Blancpain 50 fathoms. Do you need to know the date when you're using this as a diving instrument? Difficult. Very, very difficult. Forbin, Blancpain may have the most fonts on the dial today. You know what? They probably do. Good point, Forbin. Blancpain, the logo is different to the actual name. 50 fathoms in a cursive script. Ocean Commitment Limited. Even I'd imagine the type for the date is different. The Swiss made is different. The numerals on the bezel, very good shot. I like that. But I also really enjoy how they've done the 12. I love it that it's a diamond. They're 2 different diamond markers, which breaks it up. I mean, it's the real, I still think it is one of the king of divers, to me at least. I love the fact that it's just not another Submariner. It has its own history. Again, watches of the French Armed Forces next week. I go into the history of this watch, which is fun, and address how this one really kicked off the whole program for the Marine Nationale and the French Navy back in the day, how dive watches became, popular, put into circulation. Can't wait. Megan says she can't wait for me to wear my first G-Shock. It's going to be good. I definitely need to get one. Question is whether or not it should be analog or digital. Who knows? Okay, we're jumping next to another piece in this collection. Let's have a look at, no, hold on a sec, close up. Breguet Marine. And I should know what this flower arrangement is, but I'm not going to try. Got a family member who's quite the horticulturist, so she knows what's up, but I do not for the life of me know what this could be. The pink is throwing me off a little bit. I don't know. Struggle. It looks kind of tropical, kind of, I'm taking a wild guess. So Breguet Marine, this being the boutique edition. I love this watch. Blue elements. This piece deserves so much more love here in this area. There's a lot to take in. And funny how similar it is to the Ocean Commitment. It's got all the same traits and hallmarks, the same color, essentially. Has waves on the dial for the guilloche. It's something. And the Breguet Marine, we know that was, marine chronometers were their jam in the late 1700s, 1800s. So, talking about heritage. Okay, and sorry about this. Not sure about the off-center Ocean Commitment. Russell says, yeah, I mean, printing on dials. Love it or hate it. Turbo says, go with here we go, the GA2100 Casio Oak, both analog and digital. That gray dial, that gray arrangement, I call it the Dove Gray. I think that's the one that I would like to go for, given the choice. Both analog and digital, of course. Yeah, I could go with both and just experiment. It would be something. I don't know how the experience would go down. Can't tell you, because I'm such a fan of analog watches, but got to experience a G-Shock at this point, Beautiful little Breguet, though. And I think he has an off angle we can enjoy. We can say that this watch is very heavy on Breguet's core inspirations. We have Roman numerals that are applied, which is actually beautiful when you see it at the off angle here. That's stunning. Look how tall it is. I think it looks great. But then also you have, the crown guard inspired by the actual propeller of the speedboat or the ship that you're on. I think that's pretty funny. And then, of course, the lugs, love them or hate them, straight cut lugs, very similar to what we see, but they're semi-integrated. I think the design is amazing. This is the thing. As an industrial designer, you look at this and think, well, they're pulling all the core inspirations from the Breguet line, which is incredible. And they've made it in such a way that it looks both modern and old school at once. How did they manage to pull that off? It's incredible. I mean, look at the case, how it's done. We have those amazing coin edging elements to it too. And yeah, there's lots to take in. These watches are just insane. So George, these pieces, pretty incredible. Got to say, very outlandish next to the watches we see on a semi-weekly basis whenever we do these shows. I started to recognize the love of Breguet, the church says. There's lots to take in. This one especially, I think a lot of people can get on board with, just because it has that modern feel, but still very, very old school. It's got loom on the dial, and It's a bizarre watch. It's the kind of watch that I would love to own, actually. It has just the right amount of quirk to it. But then again, it's still a Breguet and it has all those classic traits. Guilloche finishing. And I saw the gents in the chat mentioning when the show will end. They say 1:45. Looking at the time now, 35 past 11. You never know. We're actually up pretty good for time at the moment, which is amazing. Okay, we're jumping next to Jay Ford. I don't know if he's in the chat, but he's sent in quite the looker of a shot. Watching Finance says, "Do you like the dial? The light-colored circle holds the numerals." Yeah, amazing. So this is what you would call a sector dial, of course. I think it breaks it up so nicely. It does give it more of a 40s feel. But as we know, Breguet has always been known for their sector dials and the way they arrange their different contrasting metals. It's always been a thing. And then, of course, they have the guilloche in the center with waves. It's a love it or hate it thing. I mean, this watch is definitely not for everyone. But the texture is another thing that I think we can all get on. It's very, what do we say, vibrant, complex for what you're getting. From a distance, it looks like a very simple watch. But when you get closer in and you see how the texture changes and how there's depth to the dial and the date window is oblong, and yeah, there's lots to take in. It does definitely, mentioning from Julian saying AM or PM, it's PM. It's coming up to midnight, this side of the world in the UK. Okay, so Jay Ford next. This was quite the surprise. He says he wants to start a new trend and send in an ankle shot. Right. So for the life of me, I couldn't make out what this watch is, but I think this is supposed to be a family-friendly show, and it's very difficult to know whether or not this will catch on. This can maybe be a trending hashtag in future, but will an ankle shot be the next step? That's the question. I guess if you have a foot fetish, that's the way, right? Painted toenails, yeah, I think it might be a girlfriend of his. I don't know. I'm not going to ask. But I'm trying to work out what this watch is, and I can't because the Magic Mouse is not cooperating. It could be a Seiko or an Orient or something there. But there we go. Ankle shot. That's the way we jam. Let's make the ankle shot a one-off. Okay, I recommend it too. This show has to be PG-13. Parental guidance required. But ankle shots, next stage. It's a Seiko. Thank you, Eric. Seiko 5. Okay. Got it. But I love it. Jayford, it's nice to see just a different interpretation of the brief. If you were a designer, you would get top marks. Either you would get top marks, or on the other side, you would be scorned and rejected by your team. So for interpreting the brief this way, you get 100% from my end. Is working blue, old term. Foreman, I don't know what that means, but I'll get to it now. Hold on a sec. Let's get this off the screen. I don't think we like seeing ankles very much. Thank you so much, Jayford, for this. This was a nice take on the area. To John. Now, we have lots of Johns, and I have to specify just how diverse it is. We have John, John. We have John, Jon. But we have two different John M's. So we have one John with the H and his M as a surname. We have another John with an M without the H. And so it goes. So this gets very difficult to hone in on who the right John is. So I'm sorry if I mix up your names. We also have Juan. So we have the Spanish version of John too. And so it goes. The submissions always make for an interesting saving process. Unstructured Plan says she's single, no ring on the toe. That's the next step, eh? Put a ring on the toe. I love it. Okay, so this is a Breitling Transocean from John M. What a cool looking watch. Got a sector dial, not a sector dial, sorry, a pole router dial. This, I don't know if it's modern or vintage. I honestly can't tell you. I'm not someone who covers Breitling very much, and it's something I need to change, especially now looking at their modern lineup. There's so much to take in. Who you calling a John? That's it. Carry on. And now everyone's having comments saying, "Babe, can I put my watch on your foot? It's for the internet. Trust me." I love it. So this is a day date and pole router elements. Very, time focused, monthly focused. I like it. John saying, I'm guessing, yes, you are definitely John M. You're one of the John M's. I don't know if there are any more. Yeah, it's nuts. You must see me saving these at like 2 a.m. I can get a bit lost in the naming. Okay, so this is a cool piece. It looks like it has a silver dial, pencil hands, it almost looks exact to the pole router that we know today. Lots and lots of pieces in this category. It feels very much like a watch out of the 50s. Maybe this was where it originated, the Transocean. I don't know if this is an original watch or if this is a modern take on it. But we have a few more examples. We have a glasuto from this John with the H, John M with the H. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Symmetry, asymmetry, very, very difficult. Where's my lasagna, John? I don't know that quote, Tippy, but there it goes. John Doe. Yeah, that's it. It looks nothing like my pole router. Am I getting it wrong? I do get pole router vibes by probably just the dividing lines through the center of the dial. Also like that this is a traditional B, not with the wings. So this is supposed to epitomize the land, air, and sea, not so much just a pilot's watch, which I like. Yeah, so I'm missing you all in the chat, so I'm going to try and get back into it now. John, thank you for this, Transocean. We're jumping to, I hope this is the same John. I think it is, judging by the wrist hair. And this is his Glasuta CQ textile strap. And I think he just picked this up too. So this is a running trend, new pickups. Justin saying would look better on a foot. Oh God, is this going to be the running gag now? Everyone deserves foot shots. I don't know so much. So the Glasuta, I've been looking at this watch a lot lately, actually. There's lots of things to take in. Beautiful elements on the dial. Breaks it up very nicely with the date. I think the date is well placed there at the 3. We're not doing Beyonce lyrics tonight, are we? Thomas says, oh, you can't tell me. Have we sunk that low? Is that from Eric? No, Eric, please. We're not sinking that low, are we? Love the arrangement, the size. This watch deserves a lot more love. And if you're based in the States, they're going for a great price. It's the downside of being based in the UK. Watch prices are so stupidly high. When you go to Europe, it's different. When you go to the States, probably anywhere else in the world, you're lucky. Is Tom Austin with us? I'd like to know because he has one of these pieces. I kind of persuaded him to pick up one of these. I don't know if he's with us in the chat, but awesome watch. There's lots to take in. It's definitely not for everyone. This is also a serious outlier in this category, but I think that's one of its merits. It's a skin diver with a twist. It's not your typical, as we will probably see, the 62 MAS model later on. Yeah, and Thomas says Glasuta is a great piece. Eric, I'll show myself out. No, it's all good, Eric. Beyonce lyrics, gotta say. It's good to experiment, Variety is the spice of life. This is, here we go. We need a squale on a foot at the end of it all. Mark would love to. Yeah, that was a good time back in those days. Yeah. Anyway, taking a hit from the coffee, getting some more energy in my system. Why do I love this watch so much, especially? What I think more brands should be doing. Look at that script on the dial. Glasuta, I mean, this is spoken about earlier, how they address date windows on their watches. They also have text nailed. They know exactly what they're doing with regards to how they just arrange everything so neatly. And actually, when I said earlier about how the German design approach is very function focused and not so much, what's a better word, free spirited. This shows you how free spirited a design can be. Even though it's based on a reissue, has lots of character to it, which I love. As for this watch being a strap monster, I'm sure everyone knows this on a NATO, this on a bracelet would work. And you're dealing with a watch that's high horology in this zone too. So there is lots. And Videv says, why do I think you'll be getting pics of watches on feet next week? I hope I don't. I think we should stop this in its tracks. I don't think ankle shots should be a thing. They should not continue. Eric, you're a laugh. I prefer Otis Redding. I don't know why that. Sitting on the dock of the bay. Watching Finance says the UK is an expensive dump of a country. I'm liking it here. I'm really liking just the experience. Coming out of Africa, I can get on a bicycle at 11 o'clock at night and go for a 4-mile cycle around, the South Coast. No worries at all. Can't do that in Africa, I can tell you that much. Can't even walk outside past like 5 p.m. in the evening. So there are lots of things to take in. There's lots of things to consider being in certain sides of the world. And, that's what I've noticed. I'll actually jump onto the next point and we can talk about it in a sec. Tippy says coffee doesn't give energy. They activate stored energy like a catalyst. Is that so? If that's the truth, I'd like to learn more about that. Jumping to Jonah. John, thank you for this. Jonah next. This is a cool piece. So it's Total Uncle Seiko. Total on an Uncle Seiko waffle strap. blue strap. Please don't say blue waffle, ladies and gentlemen. Right. So I was saying, when you travel from one country to another, you start getting very complacent on where you are and where you were. You don't necessarily consider where you were and where you are now. And it's something that I've had to come to terms with, of how different of a lifestyle it is in the Northern Hemisphere compared to being in Africa. And it's one of those things where you just realize, hey, I can put on a jacket now, go for a stroll, not have to worry about anything. Small little aspects like that do impact your life quite a bit. But of course, you end up when you're there long enough, you end up taking it for granted, and you don't necessarily just appreciate the small things. And that's kind of the beauty of the watch hobby too. It's considering the smaller things and getting real enjoyment out of what you have in your collection. Hey, look, we're 100 minutes into the show now. We can talk more about hunting for the next watch. We always have this affinity for hunting for the next watch. We love the chase. We love it. But then it's resulting back to, why do you have the watches in your collection? What's the reason why? And do you like blueberry? Who said blueberry waffles? Yeah, that's it, Mason. Come on, all you big strong men. Uncle Sam needs your help. Okay, so watching finance. Apart from ankles, hold on a sec, hold on this chap. What other parts should we strap the watch to? I wonder. Please don't do anything. I mean, look, this stuff's being sent via Gmail. I don't think it would be appropriate getting sent what you're suggesting. Wilson says, it's great having you here, Wilson. Better late than never. How's the master progressing? The master, you're talking about me. Oh, God, I don't know. How long has it been? 105, almost 2 hours. Doing very well, actually. A lot more energy than I had before the show. So that's good. Justin says, I have a problem. I love all watches. And this, we chatted about the Paddy a second ago, this being the modern interpretation of the 6105, the Willard, beautiful. I love the matching strap with the watch. It works excellently. I've really been looking at turtles recently. Seiko turtles, of course, not the ones in the wild. And thought, it would be good to experience. I love the cushion case. It's a classic. It's a real little gem. Again, you're starting in this hobby. Get one of these Prospex models. Of course, we know it's a genuine Seiko because the bezel doesn't line up. And this is the way to vet out. If you do have a fake Seiko, odds are that the bezel will line up. If it's a genuine, you'll notice that there's always one click missing. Generally, I would say 98.275% of the time, the bezel won't line up on the watch. So that's a good telltale sign. I love it. Okay, Jonah, beautiful piece. This combination especially, I've never really been a fan of the modern models in this category. They look a little bit too flashy for my tastes, but this one, the navy color, very, very subtle, really clean. And as far as I know, Jonah's based in New Zealand. Again, what's amazing is just that from wherever in the world you're coming from, you're sharing these with us. I love it. It's amazing how much of a global stage this platform eventually gets to. Moving on next to John. This is John without the H, still John M. I think he is with us in the chat. And Sarge the dog, he mentions, wasn't interested in taking photos today, but he is rocking. I don't know if it's a rubber bee. I can never get the rubber strap references, but it's a beautiful little Explorer 2. And we've just seen this watch get the overhaul. And I'm missing you all in the chat. Let's get back in. Love the turtle with the Uncle Seiko bracelet. Those end links are amazing. They are charming. It's official. Eurovision is mad. Is that going on right now, Russell? I would assume it is. You're probably like double streaming at the moment. Double streaming. What am I saying? So I need to take some alcohol for that one. Mr. French Fries Monster. Weightless chase for my 30th birthday. Zin 556ARS or ONWP0 or Formex. Ooh, that is difficult. I don't know if you watched the beginning of the show, but we featured one of those ONWs. Let's try and get it back. John M. Explorer. Okay. And here from BDev, he shared this earlier on. It's a very difficult, you know what? Given the choice, Formex is in that micro brand category, right? I would probably jump on this. And the Zin 556, it's a bit cliche at this point. So it's difficult. I like the outliers, and the Zin Diver, the Skin Diver for me is the one that I would probably, given the choice, this would be the one I would jump on. But that's just me. Take it as a pinch of salt, whatever I'm saying. Okay, getting back to the Explorer. I think this one works especially well on the rubber strap. This was one of the first modern Rolexes I ever tried on, and the 42 mil it was a strange beast, to say the least. I must say the 5-digit references in this category are incredible. And seeing how this watch has now evolved, changed slightly. And there we go. Mark saying 97.26. Didn't I say 98.26? Statistics are made up on the spot. Yep, that's the case. Most definitely. And what else does it say? Exhibit says, Exhibit X, when it's nice and late and the scotch is showing, let's take 1 minute to ask everyone in the chat if the very next watch they're on the hunt for. It's a problem. It's a real problem. You cannot be watching this show with alcohol in your system. Don't recommend it because especially, I mean, that's a question from Mr. French Fries Monster. Definitely not the best point to bring up at this stage. And what does Italy have just won? Russell says, oh my goodness. I've never watched Eurovision. I think I should though. Question for the group, BDev asks, white or black Explorer 2? Okay, I will start the thread with W or B. I'll start by saying what my choice would be given the chance. I must say the original Polar, white dial, beautiful watch, 5-digit reference. And we're starting with the music lyrics again in the chat. And so it is Polar, black, black, black. Okay, interesting. We're getting white. This should be interesting seeing the variety. Kind of 50-50. We're on the move, Megan says. We sure are, to say the least. So, John, I really dig this piece. I think the orange accents, definitely, whoa, lots of white dials. Interesting. Looks like the white dials have it. Okay, well, there we go. The Polar dial, I think what makes it more special is that it is, more unique to the Explorer 2 at this point. Black dial, let's get real. Black dial on this watch, if you had to run across someone in the street wearing it and you didn't know Rolex, you would just assume it was a Submariner or something else. Has that same arrangement. The white dial does break it up a little bit differently. And so it is. I see Matt, as in Matt417 joining us. Welcome, Matt. And he's intoxicated at the moment. Aren't we all? I'm intoxicated on coffee. So we're going to carry on to John T. This is John without an H, John T. And we'll start with his Oris 65. John, thank you for sending this in. Really cool piece. I love it. This watch, especially on the rubber, just sings. John T with the Oris 65. Now, I love this story because we actually featured this last week, that he bought this for all of 18 pounds, I think, and no one's interested in this watch, which I find a travesty. This piece deserves so much more love. The 65 design, I mean, maybe I'm partial because I own one, but I love the way the dial's done. Those beautiful obelisk hands and this having an engine turn bezel. 18, I think it was either 18 or 16 pounds on eBay. It's so cool, man. So yeah, a real good find. I think it's well worth discussing. I think this one's about 35 mils. There are lots of little aspects that definitely don't speak to everyone. And that's just it. That's the beauty of this hobby, is that we all have our own tastes in this arena. Also like how the case works. You notice that the integrated crown sits inside the case, which is clean. Very much in that transitional stage as we were moving from the skin diver to the 70s and everything there. R65 was not to love. I mean, look, I love the negative space. There's lots of, it's the definition of quirk in a watch. I really enjoy the reactions that this design gets when you chat to people about it. It's a Marmite watch or a vanilla watch, whatever you want to call it. Eric always has the deep cuts ready. I don't know what he's saying in the chat, but you gotta love it. 5-5. I think we're talking about sports scores or something. Anyone caught the French final at Twickenham today? That was good fun. La Rochelle versus who was it? La Rochelle versus oh no, I can't get these names wrong. Carrying on next shot from John is this is an awesome piece. Beautiful Oris. Can't praise it enough. I think it's a stunning watch. Mentioning Nefarian says that vintage Oris is a very affordable, and sure are for collecting. When you're starting out in the vintage space, I would most definitely suggest this to jump on, because they come for great prices. Okay, next up from John. I love this. Thomas, you might get a kick out of this watch. CWC W10. I love it, man. These were the last. I mean, if we look at the history, this is and the condition is amazing. Look at the dial. The story behind this was just as Hamilton pulled out of making watches for the Ministry of Defense. 5 for Toulouse. That's it, Hans. 5 now for Toulouse. That's it. La Rochelle and Toulouse. So Just as Hamilton left, so CWC stepped in, Cabot Watch Company, and they still had tons of Hamilton movements left lying around. So they just threw in those movements, branded them as CWCs, and the story keeps going. They used to be free. We're chatting about these pieces, Mark. Yeah, I mean, it's just awesome. The cushion cases, there's so many little things to appreciate. The one thing I'll check it out. These numerals actually have serifs on them. That's amazing. Serifs are those little dangly things that go over all the points on the plots. I love it. Really charming. Also, just great condition overall. I just love how the design of these watches were so similar, or are so similar to the 1940s, and how they just haven't changed. It's something to really appreciate, that the development of the aesthetic didn't go very far all through the 70s and the 80s. Amazing. And I think Eric loves this watch. He should. I mean, this is a real watch of its time. CWC had the same CEO as Hamilton after Hamilton left. Really? And that was Cabot, right? I don't know what his surname was. His surname was Cabot. I don't know what his first name was. Shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy, that's for sure. I was thinking of Bob Marley the other day. I don't know why. I really don't know why. I think I was trying to remember the lyrics of Don't Worry, Be Happy. Just I think I was out riding or something. And yeah, got to listen to his music again. It's such timeless stuff, you know. Right. Eric needs a charger. That's it. So Thomas is giving us some history here. The Hamilton W10 was made for the MOD from 73 to 75. CWC won the contract to make the same W10 from 76 to 80. Yeah, I love it. So in this ballpark, I would imagine that the Hamiltons are the more desired, right? Because they're the originals. They essentially are the same watch. They use the same movements. But then CWC very soon after this, I think just as this generation ended and we moved to those funky squared off cases in the 80s, we started seeing Swiss quartz movements used and no more mechanical beautifulness. What am I saying? Okay. Everything's going to be all right. That's it, Tippy. That is it. Great history. Thanks. It's awesome, Thomas. Thank you so much for sharing that. I didn't realize it was such a short run for the Hamiltons. I thought it was much longer, from 73 to 75. I had this feeling that it was from 73 to 78. It's amazing. It was the anniversary of his death. Oh, really? Is that so, Mark? A month or so ago. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know. I've got to get back to listening to his music again. It's amazing. His stuff just, I love timelessness, you know, in all areas, in all facets of life. Okay, so we're going to Juan next. What should we start with? He sent in let's have a look at his Hamilton Intramatic with his pooch in the background there, his attack dog. I'm sure it's a real guard dog, knowing that, you know, the watches that he has in his collection. Juan is a legend on these shows. He always sends in the most bizarre and peculiar pieces. This time around, we're looking at the more modern selection, and I believe this is a vintage Hamilton Intramatic from back then. I don't even know if these were called Intramatics back then, but he just loves these pieces. Big fan. He's a huge fan of Hamilton's, of Bulliver's, all those watches from back in the day. And I think this is the only vintage watch he shared with us. We're going to have a look at a couple of Rolexes and some Tudors and an awesome Patek in a second. Timelessness, isn't it ironic? It sure is. Does that even make sense? I don't even know. Someone who's an English major, please correct me. I dog trained to only understand German language commands. I mean, you know what, Shaitan? True story. When I was getting my dogs trained, I had two gorgeous golden retrievers, and when I was training them, the trainer, he had 4 German shepherds, and they only understood German. He taught them in that specific way. It's insane. And you got 4 German shepherds, you know, walking side by side, like no leads, nothing, just out in the open. And you just say one command and they all lie down and everything else. It's nuts. So yeah, would recommend. So Megan has to bounce early, getting ready, working today. God, it's Sunday, isn't it? Getting ready to start my day. You know what, Megan, it's a joy having you here. Thank you for being a part of the show. Again, it was 5 a.m. when you woke up and joined us. So thank you, really. I hope it's a successful day on a Sunday. Really get in a good meal too, Megan. Take care, as everyone's saying in the chat. Wow, it's insane. Again, I have to say, the commitment that you all have to joining these shows, I can't thank you enough. It makes such a big difference. I love it. The banter is great. You come in for the watches, you stay for the banter. Okay, Hamilton Intramatic, love the balance, love the bicompax layout. The date at the 6 works very nicely here. 3 little birds on my doorstep. Moving next to, let's go with the Batman. Batman on the Jubilee. Now, we've chatted about these modern watches so much that I think it's worth just keeping them on the screen for eye candy. Interesting that they've just reintroduced the Oyster bracelet with these models, so you can get a choice between the two, and how that's going to change, where the interest is going to go now in this area is pretty fascinating. Matt417 says, yes, love it. Yes, great. It is great. This one, especially to me, I think the Batman on the Jubilee is a real winner. There's something so special about a Jubilee on a GMT. Of course, I'm partial. Lots of people prefer it on an Oyster, but there's something dressy about the GMT that it deserves, at least in my opinion, deserves a Jubilee bracelet. But, that's the way. Truth seers, it's an absolute pleasure. He's saying thank you to me and everyone else. It's a pleasure. These shows are just a blast. A real blast. Okay, gonna carry on through. What else is happening? Need to find a charger in the dark. Hans, I've now gotten to a point where I've rigged up the phone to the laptop, charging it, because you never know what's going to happen. The laptop might just crash. So, carrying through to Black Bay. Another Black Bay. Juan spends a lot of the time, and we got a cigar on the table there. He spends a lot of his time by the pool. Speaking of which, he sent in quite a risque shot of his wife in a bikini, and I thought, since we are a PG channel here, we're gonna omit that one. But it was it's funny, he says my wife, by the way, in captions, and I thought, nah, gotta keep it just based on the watches. We've already had an ankle can't wake the wife. That's another thing, Hans. It's like midnight. I don't know how you're doing it. So you got headphones on and everything. You're a brave man. So, like, we've already had the ankle shot. I needed to have bikinis now next. Mission Impossible. Yeah, so chatting about the gilt dial. I mean, we've seen some shots of this already, as Dear Artifact says. Hold on a second. Blue Shirt saying time for another whiskey. Oh, God. Okay. Thank you, Blue Shirt. Hit the 2-hour mark. We're doing pretty well. This show might not be as long as we think, which is pretty good. Timeline. Thomas says the Jubilee looks great. I much prefer it to the Oyster on the GMT. Yeah, Thomas, we're in the small camp. I think most prefer the watch on the Oyster, which I find quite bizarre. Virtually every modern Rolex is on an Oyster at the moment. So thank you, Flippin. Taking a hit from the Keith. Let's carry on through the Keith. I love it. What was that quote earlier? I think Hans had a one-liner about Glenn Keith. I forgot it. It was great. Buzzkill, Roar of the Tiger. I know. I have to be the mature voice sometimes. Justin with the Borat voice. My wife. That's great. That is so great. Truth seers. Yeah, you know what? I used to do impressions pretty well back in the day, and I can do accents like crazy. But again, I have to keep it civilized here. Can't go too crazy. Maybe one day we'll have a complete blotto drunk stream, and we can just go nuts. Jumping next to a watch that has actually disappeared a little bit on this platform. Not many are talking about the Oyster 41, the OP41, and where it is at the moment and where the love is. Love the yellow dial though. Neo has just hopped in. Welcome. Roar of the Tiger, Buzzkill. That 58, as Mark says, the 58 is a great watch. I love it. I'm actually being dead serious. I'm considering getting a gilt dial Black Bay 58 just to experience it, because I feel like, as much as I enjoyed James Showcase's Black Bay 58 Blue, the black dial with the gilt hands just hits differently. And I have a feeling that it would become a very, just to stay in the collection as just such an excellent all-rounder. It is yellow. So that's it. How do we think? I mean, I love the way it plays in the light. I think Thomas would also probably appreciate this color because he loves yellow. Also, just love how they've done the colors here, where he's done the colors. Turquoise of the pool. We've got, I don't know, bougainvilleas. I'm not even going to guess. Orange with the yellow on top. It's a very different color to what you expect. It's almost like a camel yellow. Camel, like the racing team. Maybe it's a bit too yellow. It's not as orange as we would expect. Yes, to the gilt 58. Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm kind of going at the moment. I'm feeling it. It'd be such a nice, I mean, how can you not just enjoy the experience with the watch? That's like how I justify it. I say the ends justifying the means. You can get them for great prices still. You can wear the hell out of them, enjoy them, and there will always be someone out there who will get a kick out of getting the watch too. So it's not a watch that you would essentially lose money on, or I know that's not something you should factor in, but it's a watch that you can get a lot of value out of and still hand it off to someone else if you're not interested in the Eric says switch to the Bloom accent. No, I would offend way too many people if I had to go full on South African accent. I think it would, yeah, be bad. And Matt and Mark are having a laugh in the chat. That's great. Reminds me of the FP Jean. Yeah, funny, we haven't featured any FP Jeans in a while on the show. A couple of resonances in the past and a couple of Chronomatsu Rains. People are asking obscene money for the turquoise dial. I would imagine they'd be doing the same for the yellow and for the green, but apparently not. The turquoise is the one. It's a laugh. Maybe it's because it's the only one with the official Tiffany name attached to it, which I find pretty hilarious. Okay, madam, alcohol is getting the better of me. Oh, Matt, it's all good. 12:05 on a Sunday. By all means, hit the hay. It's great. Hope no one pays over retail for these. And that's it. It's a downside when you're seeing just how ridiculous the gray market is for all of these watches, whether it's professional, whether it's just the entry levels. They are stupidly priced. Rohit's asking, no Breguets. We did have a Breguet earlier. We had a Marine. Should I get it back out? It was just here. We had a Marine earlier, the boutique edition. Beautiful little watch. Yeah, we've covered quite the spread over the last 2 hours. There's still a lot to go. I think we've got lots of Rolex still, but we've got Zins and Breitlings and Seikos and Tudors and Oruses and some Pateks, and so it goes. Okay, moving on next to Juan's Milgauss. He's just picked this up. This one should get a lot of intrigue for us to chat about. So he mentions in the comment, which I really like, is that he fell in love with the watch in person. He was not a fan of it through the pictures, through the presentations you see online. Didn't like the photos. And I think that also love how he's caught the green of the trees with the bezel. Looks stunning. Really looks stunning. It's awesome. Man of a century. Yeah, I mean, Mark is a legend, right? He's the legend on this platform. And again, Matt, sleep tight. Don't let just turn over. It's the best thing. Turn over when you drink a lot, so it helps with the expulsion, if that's the case. The green glass, lots of things to enjoy here, as Russell says. The green glass is nice. Again, I like how he's paired it with the lighting on the reflection. Also, a very, very polished watch. Not for everyone. I find it funny. It's funky. It's also very formal, but then it has just so much character to its dial, which I think does make a big change. So Roar of the Tiger loves it, and Forbin says, is it me, or does that shot of the Milgauss show rather long lugs? This watch is a true 40. It's not your standard Explorer 39 size. It's a bit bigger. I think the lugs are slightly longer, and the case is thicker, which is, whether you like it or, I think it's ideal for someone who has a fairly bigger wrist. The thickness of the case, that's of course to adapt to the Faraday cage that surrounds the movement and everything there. But there's lots to take in. The polish, what's nice is that polishing generally brings the presence of the watch down quite a bit, you'll notice. Because light refracts off it differently, so you can see that's not necessarily the true size that's represented as. But love it. And Thomas does mention the original anniversary. It is. I still get a kick out of the blue dial, though. I think the blue dial green crystal is just that pip above this arrangement. But Forbin says it's gorgeous. Yeah, it is. It's a gorgeous photo. It is stunning. And we don't see this watch very often. I think we featured it once or twice on a rubber strap from a few in the past. But don't you find it amazing? If you've been following the show for like the last 2 years, we've seen basically the entire spread in the zone. We've seen all the watches, which is freaking crazy. It's insane when you think we go through all the categories in these shows. I mean, they're like, 3-hour stints, basically. It's insane to think just how much we've seen over the last, should we say, year. Nuts. BDev, I think BDev is joining us, or he's having a shot or something. I'm an enabler. You got me drinking scotch again. Oh no, Macallan single malt. BDev, I'm sorry. I think I'm going to switch back to wine in the next few months. It's time to get back to the wine. Whiskey's good, but in the winter months. And Rohit's asking, curious what the thickness is. Ooh, Thomas, I don't know if you have yours handy. Maybe you can pull out a ruler and quickly measure the thickness of the watch. I would assume it's probably around like 14 mils, 13, okay, 13, 14 plus. Don't know. BDev, yeah, you're right. You're definitely right there. 13. The Blue Dial version is perfection. Yeah, I mean, what this watch epitomizes now, which I really love, is that it has this formality, but then also just so many character traits. And it's very true to how the watch evolved. The original Milgauss with the arrow, the lightning bolt seconds, and then the later gen, like the 1019 and those examples, more simplified. And this one takes elements from both. I so wish that Rolex would do the same with a lot of their other pieces. There's so many more quirks they have in their back catalog, like lollipop hands, red triangles for the bezels. Yeah. And there's mentioning about whiskeys. I'm really interested in trying what's it now? Oh no. I'm not even going to be able to say it. It's a Glen, but that doesn't really say much. Again, I've been chatting for 2 hours, so of course everything slips my mind. Jump in next to Juan's Patek, this being a gorgeous, gorgeous Calatrava, 5196R, close up. The Calatravas have been getting quite a lot of attention lately because they've just brought out a new range with not engine turn bezels. What are they? Hobnail bezels, we would call them. 13 isn't too bad. It's also, when we talk about the presence of the watch, the case back does sit very flat to the wrist, so that could also be something that you could take away from it. No, Glenmorangie, no, it ends with a CH. Maybe Eric could help me. Not Glen Miller, Glenmorangie. This is the problem. There's so many. Glenfiddich, no. Glen Nonsense, Eric. That could be it. Ends with it's a pretty popular whiskey. It's kind of underrated. Falls in the same Glenmorangie region. Oh, what is the damn name? So it ends with a CH at the end. Glenlivet, no, not Fiddick. Glen Close, that's it. Oh God, we're going to be going at this for hours now. Glen Close. That's such an old, BDev, we've had that one before. How cool is this watch though? So elegant. What is the damn name? I'm going to be Glen Finch, no. Glen Miller. I don't even know if these are actual names. And Thomas saying, looks classic, it's beautiful. I mean, you can't not love the reference 96 and how simply done it is. This watch will just never age, which I find amazing. Glen Gary, Glen Ross, here we go. Glen Miller, no, that's not it. Glendronach, that's it. Nicholas, thank you. Glendronach, that's what I want to try next. We got there eventually. Glen Gary, Glen Ross, Glen Keith, oh God, you know what? That's the one. Thank you. And now John Glenn. Now everyone's gonna be putting names in the chat, and it's gonna be a mess. Yeah, I love the timelessness. I'll say again, maybe that deserves a shot of whiskey for that. I love the timelessness of this piece and how they've just gone the extra mile with the applied hobnails around the minute marks and the beautiful facets to the edge of the elements. Glenn Anderson, Glenda the Good Witch, you know what? Sherry Oak, that's it. Roar of the Tiger, Sherry or Oak. Oh, okay. So, bourbon, I've had an interesting experience. When you compare bourbon to Scotch, I find that bourbon is just way too sharp for me in most cases. Let's switch over to the next beautiful Patek. Let's switch over to the Playdate, which is just absolutely, this beautiful shot. It's just stunning. Juan, I love this piece. The story behind this is he traded all of his precious metal sports watches. He had a couple of Daytonas in this region, and he decided he wants his when you talk about the dress watch in the Rolex camp, he wants it to be in precious metal, and this one just nails it. The Playdate, it's a gem. So talking about rare and attractive, Johnny Walker Blue. God, are we just going whiskey crazy here? Glenn from The Walking Dead, Glenn. So tasting bourbons, I've had experiences where I've had whiskeys that are Scotch whiskeys that are matured in a bourbon cask and then sherry cask or whatever else. It's way strong, and bourbon in general, it's definitely an acquired taste. Rye whiskeys, I do enjoy a rye whiskey, but on occasion. It depends what you're doing. I think it's all about the occasion. That's the beauty. That's what I love about whiskeys, actually. There's some days where you feel like you want something more peaty. You want something more charcoal. But then there are other days, like today for me, I just wanted something smooth, easy to drink so that I don't lose my voice while I'm talking. Glen, MacGlen, and so it goes. But that's it. Glendronach is the next one I want to try. Lagavulin 16. Oh, that sounds amazing. There's so many. It's a rabbit hole. It's all about watches and them being a rabbit hole. Whiskey is another one. It's an amazing, family members have said it's my new hobby, whiskey tasting, which is very bad. You cannot say that to someone. Your new hobby is drinking whiskey. but I'm loving it. Again, coming out of Africa, it's all about wine there. So experiencing whiskeys. My favorites. I mean, at the moment, the Lasanta, Glenmorangie Lasanta, just beautiful. 43%. It's a sherry cask. It's got such a unique flavor, aroma. I could buy 3 bottles of it. And incredible. Glen Gold, 4 Roses, single barrel. I mean, you guys know your whiskeys better than me. I'm still very, very new. And so we're getting more names going on. I love it. I love the chat. So how beautiful is this watch? The dial, sky finish, the blued hands, the blued numerals, very modern. The open 10 is stunning. It's a real heavy hitter, literally and metaphorically. I don't even know if he's a real name. It's Glenn Danzig. That's a proper name. But Glenn Quagmire, oh God, I don't know what's happening, but it's all good. Love it. Okay, Juan, beautiful pieces, really stunning. And Thomas, gorgeous turquoise dial. Yeah, the day at the 12 o'clock. It works well. I think a lot of day dates do sometimes. I mean, actually, funny, we've got another one right after this. Some day dates do miss the mark in the way they're arranged. This one hits it in many different areas. Oh, I love the colors. And the best part is it looks steel. So it's kind of unassuming considering. My favorite whiskey is the Ben Romach 21. That's another thing to get your head around, is the prices of these things. The prices of whiskeys. Oh, it's a real commitment when you get into the heavy numbers. When you start getting to the 16s and the 18s, yeesh, the prices go. And then you hit 21. And then you hit 30. And so it gets worse and worse. Juan, loved your pieces. All modern, essentially. Glenn Craig, right? Glenn, he's from Family Guy. Okay, I just woke up to that. Jumping to Julian next. Beautiful. So this is a day date from 2013. Very different. So this is also a 36 mil. Julian has quite a varied collection, to say the least. He shared a Patek with us. I think this is definitely the same Julian who shared his it was a Patek perpetual calendar that he bought for the price of a Hulk Submariner, just as the hype was skyrocketing. Just as the Hulk was discontinued, he got out of it and got a full-on perpetual calendar Patek, which is hilarious. But he does love the more finer tastes. And here is an example of a watch here with just the Romans, I love the serifs. I'm a sucker for serifs when a Roman dial is arranged. Notice how different these two watches are. A modern Rolex seems very just focused on moving in one direction. When we look at the way they do their numerals on their dials of pieces, we focus on the Air King or the Explorer with their fat fonts that they're using now. Here we are seeing Roman numerals that aren't serifed. Now, they do still have examples today that are serifed, but we notice the difference between these two. This feels more true to form when it comes to the classic model. Okay, Royal the Tiger says, recent tradition, Highland Scotch whiskies use oak barrels. The whiskey shouldn't have an E at the end there, Roar of the Tiger, by the way. That's a common thing that separates Irish and Scotch whiskey. I've learned something. Use oak barrels imported from the States. That's it. American oak, Spanish oak, they're very big on that. I'm learning. There's a new serif in town. I'm learning these little traits. I'm really digging it, learning about single grain and learning about rye and all that stuff. It's a rabbit hole. Like with any of these hobbies, should I say, you just get further and further into it and you start picking up on these serif smile. There's a new serif in town. You know what? That was a goodie there, Neferion. Playing Robert Johnson songs. Eric, I could listen to Robert Johnson all day. What amazing. God. I mean, it's really freaky. I feel like to share some history behind Robert Johnson in the chat, Eric. Really amazing enigma of a player and the stuff he did and how he played and how he kept rhythm with his hands and was able to sing over it. Mind blow. I've loved it. I'm trying to think of I would say the Crossroads is probably my favorite of his. Singing your soul away. That's it. He sold his soul. He sure did. At the Crossroads. Okay, jumping next, he sent in a few more shots so we can enjoy the details, the close-up shots of the watch. You can see the text on the dial. But yeah, I think he, like most musicians, he died at 27, and just he spent basically every recording he did was over the course of a couple of days, and every single one was absolute. I mean, what was that train station tune that he did? That was incredible. Just amazing. I mean, he is the reason for bluegrass. He's the reason for blues music that we know today, old and new. The traditional Delta blues was the way That's how it all started with him, basically. It's incredible. So, love the day date, and he did. This is a goodie. Sends in a shot of the watch at the service center. That is just so cool. This is where Wrist Shot Week really shines. Rolex at the service center. That made me laugh. Played with 4 hands. You know what? Could easily. I mean, just insane. Sweet Home Chicago, the 27 Club. That's it, Mark. 27 Club is a harrowing thing. I've just turned 27, so I got to watch myself. Taking a hit from the coffee again. Han says the reason for all popular music. I mean, it's amazing. If you've got an open tab, check out Robert Johnson and how influential he was to the music scene. So I love this. Service center, it's the way it is. Stunning. Jumping next to Chem. And thank you for this, Julian. I loved seeing the differences between the modern and the vintage, or the more classical day date. So we're jumping to our first modern Rolex in this category, the 12610 being the new date sub. And he just, this also works into the theme of the show, hunting for your next watch. He just picked up this piece. And I still find it fascinating. I can't wait to experience one of these. I'm sitting on the fence now thinking, should I get a 36 Explorer? Should I get one of these modern pieces, the modern subs? Wilson, how about Rodriguez? You know what? It's funny because my folks are from Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, moving to South Africa. And that documentary that came out, everyone, and it's not a joke, everyone in South Africa knows who Rodriguez is. And it's like a cult. It's a cult following. And this stuff is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, I love this. I do have a couple of his tracks saved in a playlist. I really enjoy it. Okay, Sugarman, yeah, talking about all of that. Muddy Waters, 132nd scale. Yeah, that's it. Royal Tiger, I love it. Talking about the service center. But this watch, I think they've absolutely, the Submariner, of all the watches they've done, I'm still a little bit on the fence thinking about the 36 Explorer and how they've addressed it, where it's still relatively modern and the proportions, the text on the dial is a little bit funky. Might take some getting used to, but the way they have addressed this watch, they've done it so well. 41 mil, tapering the lugs, widening the bracelets. It pretty much addresses all the issues that I had in the back of my mind about these super case pieces. Yeah, Hans saying Zim, and yeah, talking about South Africa, that side of the world. You know what? So this I actually called the pickup shot because this is with his, I don't know what, a Ford Ranger or something. Me and pickup trucks. Pickup wrist shot. Look at that angle. That's so cool. You can't go wrong with a sub. It's just a gem. And everyone watch Sugarman, as Flip and Zippo says. Yeah, the documentary Sugarman sums it up. That he was basically an undiscovered artist whose music really hit the scene in the Southern Hemisphere, Australia, South Africa especially, becoming basically the Bob Dylan songs during the apartheid era. And it was just this, it was amazing how everyone in that side of the world knew what he was about and who he was, but no one else in the States where he originated, no one knew anything about him. And he has since just been revived because of the documentary and the acclaim and everything going on. He's, still plays sessions, he plays live, and people love him. His stuff is amazing. Listen to Rodriguez. I think I was about to say Blood on the Tracks, but that's Bob Dylan. Again, you get crossed because he is very Bob Dylan-esque in the way he plays. Okay, so carrying on through. The new 41 sub is perfection. Blue shirt, I totally agree. Oh, I've got to get one of these in hand. I've got experience. I'm just thinking for my 30th, I should just pick up one of these, get a no date, done and dusted. Oh, amazing. Cam, thank you for sending this in. I think this is the only modern sub in this category we're going to look at. We still have some great variety, but this is the only modern, like most modern recent watch that we've seen. Pretty cool. Jumping to Luke next. And speaking of Zin, we had a look at the DS model with a scratched up dial. Here is the U1 again, but in a more typical format that we now recognize. Black on black, red accents, amazing. Okay. And if Aaron says the watch is nice and thin too, oh yeah, that's another thing they did. They tapered in the case so it's not as thick anymore, and it's awesome. Scalextric. Was that really a Scalextric track? Or I don't know. That's another thing I was into a long time. BRMs and Ninko and all those brands. Love it. So, great documentary talking about Sugarman. The 3235 movement, there's a 70% chance it goes back to the dealer in first year in case you put it on time. Really, Michael, that's interesting. That's the thing with these new calibers, lots of brands. I mean, Tudor was one example of a brand that had a bit of an issue with their GMTs, but the issues do get swept under the rug pretty often. I'm just going to mute myself for a sec. Clearing out the air in the system. I don't think you want to hear me burping on stream. So this is not a U50, no, Nefarion. This is a U1. This is a U1, and just great. I think the differences between the two is that the U50 is slightly smaller. The U1 is around 42. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I love the accents, the colors. There's so much to enjoy here. This one, speaking of date windows on watches, that was UB40. Thank you for that, Hans. Speaking of which, the model, talking about date windows on watches, I think this has been done so nicely here. So nicely. You notice how subtle it is. It's still at the 3 o'clock position, which is you either love it or hate it. But I think what they've done here is so casual. It's really subtle. Excellent. I mean, talk about the epitome of German design. This is real German tool watch design at its finest. The red accents are amazing too. U1, 1,000 meters, U55. Oh, good point there. Very good point, BDev. Here we go. 1,000 meters. Isn't it amazing? I don't even think this has a helium release valve or anything. Maybe Eric could give us some more points. He mentions it's 44 mils. I'm very interested in knowing if this, when it comes to specifications, Eric is the master of the dive watch. He knows everything that is to be known. And UB40, red wine. You know what, Thomas, speaking of which, I came across this listening to Zeppelin. And what is the damn song? Dio Maker. I am almost 100% sure that UB40 took that rhythm from Led Zeppelin. It's called Dio Maker, right? I think Eric could put the name in the chat. You can hear the bass rhythm and everything there. And I thought to myself, that sounds exactly, if you play the two songs side by side, that's it. Jamaica. Thank you, Eric. So Nefarion puts it in. Check it out on YouTube or whatever. Listen to the track and compare it to UB40's Red Wine. You might get quite a shock. Why is there orange on the hands of the center? In fact, this is more blood orange, Russell. This is just how they do it, I guess. We're talking about the aesthetic. I don't know the true reason. I really don't know why these elements are accented the way they're done. It's very peculiar. Also notice that the red elements are around the bezel, but not at the 15 points. The 15 marks are white, and from the 15 to the 60, they're red, which is also a bit out of left field. It's almost like they're working in the opposite of what you would expect in the negative, which is pretty cool. Eric saying stole it. Yeah, you know. Watch and pray. Imagine a black dial sub with a black date window background. Oh, God. A roulette date window background. Imagine that. Roulette black window date. Oh, it'd be so good. They have so much opportunity to do so much more. And it's just wasted potential, man. If I was CEO of the company, I would go double down on some of those vintage aesthetics. Don't go the Omega route where it's way too heavy in the category, but still, there's so much in their back catalog that they can pull and still spice it up. So yeah, talking about Zin, the U50, the U1, would recommend. I'm seriously considering a U50 as my next watch. This exact arrangement, black bezel, black dial, red rubber strap, win. Such a winner. Okay, moving to Max next. Thank you for this, Luke. Jumping to a Breitling Super Ocean, and I think he did say something about the rainbow. Oh, the voice is going. Hold on. The voice is on the edge. I think we're okay. Haven't touched the fisherman's yet. So this is the Super Ocean 57. Has received quite an interesting feedback on both sides. Ain't no big surprise. Pour me a drink. Those are Zeppelin lines, I think. And that rhymed. Watching Finance says the color scheme feels a bit 1980s. You know, it's very 1980s. Everything about it, I agree. I mean, just the handset and the way the batons are done. I love it. I do really enjoy watches that have very key traits from wherever they're inspired from. So this from the 80s for sure. This you can tell is from the 50s. 57 is in the name, but you can just see it. It just doesn't make sense. And that's the beauty of the 50s dive watch, is that they didn't know what was cracking. They just freaking threw whatever they could down and hoped something worked. There are no numbers on the bezel. The bezel is like a a ceramic dish that's reversed inwards. We've got these quarter markers that look so strange. The handset looks like a Christmas tree. Don't even know what's going on, but that's the beauty. And this is where I really get a kick out of this hobby, when we see that variety. That's why I love the prototypical phase, when there was no knowing where watch design was going in this category here. So look at the text of the Super Ocean and all of that. They've done some good stuff with these pieces. They've brought them out in two-tone. They've got rubber bracelets, rubber straps. They've got deployants with them too. Beads of rice. Call this more of a mesh bracelet, kind of in between. It's great. Really is cool. Yeah, very 80s, that's for sure. Yesterday's gone. All my troubles. And here we go. Getting some Beatles happening in the chat. That's it. Watch and pray. Taking another hit from the Glen. The Glen. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. Okay. Chaz from the Berg is asking questions about the Zin. You know what? I think, Chaz, you would love this watch. You're someone who really enjoys the outliers here too. I would highly recommend it for you. Now it's as though they're here to stay. Oh, chatting about yesterday. I believe in yesterday. Suddenly, carrying on. So blue on blue is also very nice. Also enjoy that they're not putting faux lume or aged lume on the dial. This is very clean. It feels more modern. Awesome. Really awesome. Carrying on next to Mark. Max, love this. I love the fact that we're getting so much variety. I think he mentioned, I can't remember his email, but it was something like Eat Your Heart Out, Rainbow, Super Ocean. This is the way. Okay. Going to Mark. This is Mark with the K. We've got Mark with an L and Mark with a K. We've got Mark with a P in the chat. And so it goes. It's just the names. The names are endless. And we have a beautiful 1991 16713. And now this is, for me, this is the epitome of the root beer. This is, oh, hold on. This is a bit different. I'm so close to being the spot on root beer for me. I love the two colorway bezel. This dial for me is my favorite. Actually, oh, it's so good. It looks so good, man. We can chat about this for a while. 1991. Can you see how much it's changed just in that small time? How classic this still looked, you know, at that stage. This is the true tiger's eye dial, and oh, I love it. And many of us here, I mean, we're drinking whiskey. This is the whiskey watch. Okay, carrying on. Let's see what's going on in the chat. I'm missing here reception. Hold on a sec. Beautiful Fleetwood Mac. There's all kinds of looks concave. It is Tommaso's mask. It's Flying Saucer vibe. I think that's pretty much where they got their inspiration. Like, no kidding. Maybe the designer got abducted by aliens in the 50s, Roswell, whatever else, and then came back to Earth after being probed, of course, and thought, okay, I'm going to now try and create it so it was inspired by the spaceship that sucked me in. How does it? I mean, it does look like a watch right out of that. Even the quarter markers look like a spaceship design. The Jetsons. I mean, that was all about the 50s, you know. The Jetsons. What a cool show. Now, they really thought through the future then. Cape Canaveral. I think we're talking about the background there. Money Can't Buy Me watches. Talking about Beatles again. Can't Buy Me Love. And carrying on. We're a funky bunch. Yeah, we sure are. That's for sure, flipping. So there's so many things to like. Also notice this is technically a gilt dial, but we don't have applied. The gilt is not reverse applied because this dial itself is not painted. It's the purest, as far as I know. Maybe someone can correct me. Beautiful though. Really stunning. So this is more like the toffee, or should we, yeah, the toffee bezel, and then you have the caramel aspect on some models too. I would prefer this on a Jubilee given the choice, but this also does dress it down a little bit, so it's not too hectic. I'm an alien, Nefarion, you're right. I'm reincarnated into a human form. I'm more machine than man. That's a Star Wars quote, I think. But that's just it. Full areola indices, that's adjusted. I mean, the nipple dial is one thing, but we like the full areolas. There's something about it that just, it's more legible. It does look like it has replacement hands, but apart from that, I think the condition on the dial is insanely good. Beautiful shot too, Mark. I love the fact that you got that light play in there, so we can really appreciate the whiskey sunrise. Take me to Paradise City. I don't know, Eric. I'm just kidding. Pound the drums. The Explorer. You know what? You are coming up very soon. In fact, like the next 3 people down, and we're going to be checking out your Explorer, the Gen 1. Take me to the river. Yeah, here we go. These song lyrics always start happening during the show. It's great. Okay, moving to Mark L next. Mark, thank you for sending this. Next, Mark. This almost made the cover. I mean, how could it not? It's beautiful. I have never seen this watch before, but I thought to myself, this has all the aspects that we expect to see from the Zenith Chronomaster Sport, the modern Daytonas, in a Seiko package. Look at this thing, ceramic bezel. I love the dial arrangement. It's the reference SPB001 for anyone who's interested. Illegal alien watch and pray. That's just it. I'm an illegal from Africa. God. That was nearly a true thing, by the way. I mean, you know how close it was for me to get my citizenship. It was I'll tell you that story if you like. Taking a hit from the whiskey again. I think it was all of 2 weeks before my visa expired in the UK when I got my citizenship. And that was a stressful 4 years getting to that point. Lots of lawyers, lots of debates, lots of research and archive work, and it was hectic. What a cool looking watch, man. Pump pushers, you never see this. I love it. They're like little pistons. It looks great. So I'm trying to work out what this does. It says alarm. Does this in fact have an alarm arrangement to it? I love the date display. It's also very nice seeing the tri-compacts layout a bit differently with the text. Yeah, and some are saying, so it's that Aiden. Yeah, Aiden's saying he likes it. It's a cool piece, right? This was so close to being a cover. The only reason why this was not featured as the cover was the 1016 just had, I like that story, and that deserved to be highlighted at the very beginning. But what a beautiful photo. I mean, given the chance, this is all that needs to be done. You just arrange it like that, oblong. You put the text on the side, cover photo watch. Beautiful photograph. And I have never seen this piece before. Seriously cool. So it falls under the SPB line. I'm guessing it's a Prospex. It's in that Prospex category. Shaitan says, am I staying in the UK for good? You know what? I'm a lucky guy. At my age, I have the choice of being able to move around. I don't know yet. You can't say at 27, will you ever say, I'm staying here for good? Once the world opens up a bit more freely for us to move around, I do plan on traveling. I do plan on experiencing the world a bit. Because, I mean, I've come out of Africa, the southernmost tip of Africa. So it would be nice to see some more of the world. Of course, I've traveled in my life, but Mark, we're lucky to have you, especially given our summers. You know what? I'm probably the reason why all the summer has moved to the southern hemisphere. It's terrible. This is the worst I've ever experienced here. It's rough. Gee, we had gale force winds by the coast yesterday. I literally got blown off the bike yesterday. And today, just torrential rainfall. So what's next? Tomorrow it'll be snow, and so it goes. The UK is turbo. America's calling. I would love to come and visit the States, especially actually both the East and West Coast. I need to just travel. Yeah, so the chat's going again. Tag me and I'll be able to see it easier. Beautiful watch. I mean, what else can we say about it? I find it just incredible, fascinating. I don't even know if it's an automatic or if it's a Seiko course movement, but I think the arrangement is amazing. The pencil hands, the baton arrangement there is nicely done. The window's framed. The pump pusher is awesome. Maybe the crown's a little bit it juts out a bit too much, but other than that, the facets on the lugs are stunning. Integrated bracelet's very nice. Solid end link. What a win, Mark. This watch caught my attention. I had it for a very long time, just looking at it and thinking, this is crazy. Now, Joel's saying I'm from South Africa. I am. Yeah, I mean, this is a first for some people. I'll tell you the story. Next to Pat rocking a Black Bear 58 blue on a leather strap. I think we have featured this watch from him before. In some lights, you would swear this is a black dial. It's pretty awesome. I love seeing this watch in direct light. It is beautiful. So yeah, I'm from South Africa. My accent is a bit confusing. There's a bit of English, there's a bit of Rhodesian, there's a bit of all sorts. I'm a bit of a mutt in this zone. But yeah, originally from Cape Town, spent 21 years of my life there, and now living in England. So if you're based on the South Coast, reach out to me in the emails and we can meet up. I've met up with a handful of you before and it's been an excellent time. I think we need more. It's one thing, watch meetups. There's something special about them, man. You can really gauge so much more about the collector and their tastes when you're chatting with them in person and getting their experiences and stuff. Chaitan says, do I ever plan on moving back to South Africa? Look, I've got lots of friends and family still there, but probably not. No, I'm enjoying the Northern Hemisphere way too much. Not to say that I won't go back to visit and travel and all that, but you know what? I've lived 20 years of my life there. Maybe I'll be a migratory thing where I travel 20 years from A to B to Z, and so it goes. Does Cape Town get those gray May and June days? They sure do. Yeah, I mean, winter in Cape Town is rough, got to tell you. Visit the States, make sure to get G-Shocks. I can't wait to come to the States. I haven't been to the States in decades. Okay, carrying on. Beautiful Tudor Black Bay. Again, I've had some wearing experience. The only critique I have for the Black Bay, I think I mentioned this before, is the case height feels unnecessarily thick by about, I don't know, 2 millimeters. Other than that, superb watch. Really superb watch. Okay, Pat, superb. Thank you for sending this in. Next to Pound the Drums. Pound the Drums sends us the OG Explorer, polished Arabics, which I'm kind of loving. It's the unloved child that I think deserves more love. So does Cape Town get those great? I'll tell you what, the climate in Cape Town is just as bad as the UK sometimes, actually. You get just torrential downpour. It's always wind because you're living by the sea, so you're always getting wind. Winter especially can get really cold. We're talking about really cold. In Africa terms, that's like 10 to 12 degrees, but just lots of rain and everything else. So yeah, the country does go through a full range of weather experiences, that's for sure. And Watching Finance says, watch meetups would be awesome. Yeah, the UK doesn't have enough of them. Red Bar. We need to get involved with Red Bar, given the chance. Hopefully that'll happen. Red Bar in London or wherever you're based. I don't know if they have a Red Bar in Brighton, but that would be cool too. Okay, carrying on. OG Explorer. I love the photo, the dial. You can see all the elements here. And T-Rex. Yeah, it's the T-Rex, of course, the T-Rex hands. I mean, I don't find it to be much of a problem, honestly. You notice that they are slightly short for where they should be, but they don't feel too jarring, right? It's so funny how collectors come up with these terms like T-Rex hands and all of that stuff there. It's hilarious. I mean, we all have our own tastes. And Blue Shirt says, when you come to New York, for sure, paint the town red, whiskey and watches. It'll be so good, Blue Shirt. I'd love to do that. Honestly, would love to do that. I haven't been to New York. I must be 20 years. I was there, and I actually stood under the World Trade Center. The last year the World Trade Center was up. How crazy is that? Just freaking nuts. Just freaking nuts. Okay, carrying on next to Raymond. Raymond has sent a huge selection, and I think we have two Raymonds. This first Raymond is from South Africa. Eric, you're going to get a laugh out of this. Cape Town, South Africa is known for their craft beer, and Raymond is based in Cape Town, if I remember right. And he's drinking Fuck Off Lager, and Hamilton, just a beautiful little Hamilton khaki on a Bond NATO strap. Yes, as you can probably read, that is the expression that you generally, when you want to tell someone to go away, that'll work. Watching Finance and Chi-Town says, I forgot that SA is upside down. June is the month. Yeah, June is the first month of summer in California. Exactly. So we have winter months starting June. And I was born in November, so that means that I had the full summer through those years. And now coming to the UK, November is pretty cold. So it's talk about flipping your life on your head, to say the least. Say that again if everyone says, no, I think I said it well enough the first time. There should be a V. Technically, it should be a V and not an F, but I do love the balance. It's kind of like Nomos in the way the type is arranged, don't you think? Yeah, we're giving you some South African culture here. I love it. Craft beer in South Africa is a big, big thing. And I mean, the money that goes into this, the labeling, the printing, it's huge. We have some King Proteas there on the sides. I don't know what the FPK means, but we've got a skull and crossbones. You know what? Design. I'd imagine this is probably brewed in Woodstock, for all I know. That's a region of Cape Town. Taking a hit from the coffee again. These Hamiltons are also great pieces to pick up to start, to get accustomed to the hobby and everything there. Surely an oxymoron. Or are we talking about the lager, or are we talking about whatever else I was saying? I don't know. It's great, though. I like, that's another thing. South Africans can be pretty brutal with the way they put points across. Can be very arrogant, I think. We do tend to be very arrogant folk. So it's nice. It's always good to have a bit of humility behind you and your background. But this watch is stunning. Typical Benrus, Hamilton arrangement. We see how the 24 scale works. Very Americanized field watch. And do love how the W10s are done. This is we're chatting about the CWC W10 earlier. This is how the American approach has been done with the 24 scale. And it's always good That looks like, is that a date complication? No, it's not. It's not. That's stunning. So Raymond being based in Cape Town, I always like seeing what he shares because, I can tell you there's not a huge watch community that side of the world. And it's good to see. I think he has a Paddy Turtle. He has a Hamilton. He has a couple of pieces. It's great that we're representing the Southern Hemisphere in that side of the world. Nicholas asking, am I a beer guy? I am. Coming out of South Africa, I was for sure. I am loving my drink of choice at the moment, Guinness Original Stout. Amazing. That's been my guilty pleasure. Okay, so this is the next Raymond we're jumping to. This is not Raymond from South Africa anymore. Again, really good brand. I would love to get some shipped to me, actually. I'm going to reach out to them and see. Next up from Raymond, he has quite the broad Smith's collection. Smith's watches, I mean, I spruik the brand a lot. This was definitely the reason why I shared mine. Definitely not for any kind of clout. I'm just really getting a kick out of wearing this at the moment. I love the size now that 36 is back. And jumping back down to Raymond Smith's again. He's got the full range, which is nuts. This is nuts. So I'd only saved one shot from him. He sent in a handful. This is a Seiko that's been modded, and it has a Comex signature on the side there with the 369. This is the Everest with the white dial. This is the original Everest, I think. This is the first model. I have one of these, and I'm going to be doing a giveaway very soon. Actually, when the next time I do a Smith's review video, I will be doing a giveaway on the channel, and this will be up for grabs for someone, so that should be fun. And the Commander, how's that? The Smith's Commander, this thing, I mean, the prices these watches are going for on eBay and stuff, it's just ridiculous, man. It is ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, they are amazing, amazing watches, but, for the prices that people are asking for them, does your clasp stay closed? MTB says, I have switched mine. I've never been a real fan of this bracelet. It's pretty good, but I've switched mine over to a more generic rivet bracelet. The clasp is one aspect that I think could be improved upon for sure. It'd be nice to have a mechanism that locks it in place. But they are solid watches, I think, for what they are. And again, I mean, this was done in partnership with Eddie from Time Factors. I don't know what the latest stages are, if he's bringing out some new pieces soon. I haven't chatted to him for a while, actually. I need to reach out. Raymond, just come back. Well, we've just jumped back to you. That's it. Someone likes his Smith watches. Okay, I'm an addict. I have to admit, I'm a Smith's addict. Moving next, though, I love this. How cool is this? He shared a couple of shots of a fully cased. This is so cool. I love these straps. So this is a strap that secures with a protective shield over the front. This being the Murph, the Hamilton Murph. This is such a cool looking watch. This strap suits it down to the ground, don't you think? Am I doing any more work? Foreman's asking. Yes, I think we might be doing another collaboration piece in the future. I don't know. It's very lead time is very difficult with him and what he asks for with his pieces. So most of the time they're delayed for like 3 months and stuff. It can get a bit hectic. And then Chaz saying loves the design, wanting bigger sizes. I think if it does catch on, he will size them up. That's all up in the air. The main issue is just getting these things manufactured fast enough. And it's always a struggle, especially what's been going on in the world. It's been a big struggle with him getting supply and all of that there. As JCB just joined us, welcome. Welcome. I don't know what time it is in the world where you are, but welcome to the show. Okay, carrying on. I love this dial. This is amazing. I don't know if this was just a limited run or if they still make these, but what a cool piece. And the best part, this system, the closure with the bunt strap and everything there is so nice. And of course, we have another example. Hey, there we go. How's this? We were chatting about it a second ago. This being the burgundy dial. Oh, look at this with that same strap setup. How well, God, that is so cool. You know what, Raymond, I think you are based in the UK, Raymond, but I would love to send you my address and get this watch to review with this exact setup because I love it that much. For a pilot watch, it looks just amazing. Oh, I can just leave this on the screen. This is the kind of watch that you could end the show with. The colors are sublime. Pointed date, again, huge love. Would highly, highly recommend it for someone out there. Taking a hit from the last drop of the Glen Brown dial. I'm in Seattle. Oh, you're in Seattle. Jeez. This is another thing. I don't know where half you guys are in the world. A lot of you send in your mail saying with love from Florida, from New Orleans, from Hong Kong, from Singapore, everything, but it can be difficult. Based in Seattle, postage is a bit difficult. Seattle, Washington. Good God. Okay, taking hit from the last of the Glen. This combination for me absolutely, oh, come back, absolutely wins. I think it's amazing. Best strap of the night, Eric says. That's a lot of strap. I mean, the story behind these protective cases, of course, they would be used for during the First World War, I would imagine, Second World War, for just the sake of safety more than anything else. But then you do get some that completely cover your watches. And speaking from experience, my old man, when he wore a watch in the Rhodesian Bush War, they all had cover-ups over their dials because of the reflection that the glasses would have. It's actually insane how much a watch can give you away in the field when you're out in the wild. Right, Zin 104 next from Raymond. This is, we've only been chatting, we've chatted about the U's a lot, but no 104s. This being another classic. I've never seen this pairing before. We have a NATO with a Bunt combo. Looks really good. I don't know if the red accent, if this watch did have red accents on it, it would probably sit a bit better. But I love the idea of having a NATO Bunt combo. It's pretty, forgive me, Father, for I have Zin. Everyone needs to Zin once in their lives, I think. We're getting to that point now. Raymond's a former Brit from London. That's what I thought. So you are a former Brit. Got it. All the best from the darkest Lancashire. Thank you, Mason. Oh my goodness, look at that description underneath. Hold on a second. Yeah, I mean, talk about where we are, locations. I think it's amazing how we can just connect through this single platform. It's insane. And this whole idea of seeing what everyone else wears gives us a lot more inspiration to look out for more pieces and, reach out to each other if we're interested in whatever the person's wearing. The best bush visors in the world. Yeah, I've got to say, Eric, that was a fun, happy time, right? Jumping next. Now this is cool. I had no idea about the history of this watch, but this also comes from Raymond. Another Smiths. Apologies to everyone who doesn't like it. It's called the PRS 40. When the decision was made to proceed with this watch, an application was submitted to the Ministry of Defense for a NATO stock number. Application was successful and allocated. Now, I don't know if this was an actual service watch back in the day. That's what I assumed from the message, but I do know that Eddie does, in fact, get stocking numbers for a lot of these pieces, which I think is just amazing. You can, in fact, get these pieces, like he does go that far with a lot of these. The Cinder app, Watching Finance, says, I love it. That's it. I mean, that could be something new. And the one for, talking about the 104, countdown bezels, stunning. How long have we been running? Almost 3 hours. God, how much do we have left? I think we're doing pretty well. It'll be another 3.5 hour-ish show, roughly. I love the design of this piece. It's so simple and stark in its arrangement, but still really, really cool. Born Zinner. That's it. It's awesome. So it is issued. Okay. So Eric said it was issued. It's great. Yeah, man, Smiths has a cool history. I must say, there's a lot to take away from them. Okay, next up, Raymond, thank you for sending these all in. We've had quite a variety of pieces from you. Jumping to Robert next, and sadly, he sent in 2 shots with his Explorer. He is, I believe, he is a Coast Guard. Now, MCOM, I did not get what that, what it would be an acronym means. EMCOMM, Red Cross at my local auxiliary Coast Guard shack. He sent in another image with this watch next to the radio he was using, but the image was broken, and that does happen from time to time. Nice Gen 1 Cayenne. I'm a sucker for the Gen 1 Porsche Cayenne. I think the design of it is beautiful. It's has that Mark IV VW style where it's very not out of its time. It looks great. Yeah. Anyway, sidetracked. Still, 39 mil on a rubber strap. You can never go wrong. Sadly, we can't feature the radio. I'd really like the context of that shot, but sadly, the image broke as you sent it through. The case was shaped with a chisel. Justin, yeah, I mean those what would you call them? 70s, 80s era cases were just bizarre. Crown at the 12. Speaking of which, again, prattling on about watches of the French Armed Forces happening next week. I chat about Triton. I chat about ZRC and how funky those watches were with the way their crowns were done and stuff. It's a good time. The French watches, there's some amazing issued pieces from back in the day. Yeah, so we've chatted about that. This is not the first. We've had about 4 Explorer 39s for the show. Pretty nuts considering. Another hit from the Glen. And carrying on to Type 20s and different. I cover it all. It's been a full year in the process, that write-up. It's insane. Jumping to Rick next with this is fun. The Seiko 6138/, 8021, the OG Panda, he says. So this being the first Panda Seiko. This is cool. I like this arrangement a lot. Also, the photograph is amazing. You can enjoy the texture of the strap and all of that there. Yeah. Did you get the Rainbow Zenith, Dan the Watchman? No. The Rainbow Zenith. Did I miss something? No, I just focused on the Type 20s, basically, and the Hanhart 417s and all of that stuff. Did you send me a Rainbow Zenith in the email? Is that what you're asking? I don't know. But talking about this arrangement, I do like how they've done it. Notice how the markers, this is really good, by the way. 30-minute counter that also has the 60-minute marks underneath. I really, really like that. So it was a French issue. I did not cover the Rainbow Zenith. Another thing I do specify at the very beginning of the video is that I've probably missed a handful, some great watches in the video, and more information about it would be excellent in the comments of the show. Of course, I probably missed out a lot. It's a 22-minute video, so you'll get your fill when it comes to watch history. I dread thinking how much of editing is going to be going into it next week. It's nuts. The audio is done. It's now just putting in the pictures and the slides and all of that there. Stover or Suva, just about to say, Suva factory stamp on the dial. It's really nice. And also enjoy that the tachymeter's in set. It's not on the bezel. It's set inside it. Really good contrast. You wonder why more brands aren't doing this kind of arrangement today. Even here, when not all of us are a fan of the day-date arrangement with the window of these pieces, but I think where it's framed, it looks much more considered, which is quite bizarre. Black edge to the hands. Yeah, it looks wonderful. It does, Foreman. These are what I would consider syringe hands in the truest sense. I mean, the Zin ones ride that line a bit strangely with the way they do it, very 80s. This does look very true to form. I mean, it even looks like it's filled with something. I mean, I love it. I love how it looks, negative space and everything there. Really nice arrangement. Rick, thank you for setting this for us. I love the variety of these shows, as always. Hans has to say goodnight. Hans couldn't make it through. Anyway, 5-1. Well done, Hans. I hope you didn't wake up the wife. It's always good. I like how Seiko democratized the day-date complication. They sure did. They sure did. And, you know, other brands ask such stupid prices for day-date complications. But here we go. An example of a watch. Seikos in general. Everyone can get a day-date if they want it, which is pretty something. Okay, jump into Sam Ray next. I don't know if he's still with us, but he has just started taking photos of watches with Adobe Premiere, I think, and Lightroom and all sorts. So he's been able to play around with lighting. And this is also a new watch of his. He just picked up the Oris Aquis. I don't know if this is the new caliber. Someone might need to correct me. But I think the photography is amazing. We featured Oris a couple of times. The hunt for the next watch is a dangerous thing, and sadly, these shows do definitely not quell the interest. So one thing I noticed is the bezel is polished. It's not. So we're talking about Yacht Masters and stuff. It has that same appeal. And the Aquis, I find it amazing that there are actually fake Aquises on the market. That was a pretty riveting video done by. See, this is the problem. When I'm 3 hours in, the dementia sets in. The alcohol and coffee induced dementia. It's really clean though. I love it. And I see that Bobby Legs is joining us. Welcome, Bobby Legs. Kids are in bed. You know what? I really dig your shows on Fridays. They are good fun. They're so short. A 1 hour show. It's amazing how fast an hour goes by. This coming from yours truly, who can talk for 3 hours nonstop. It's crazy how fast time flies when chatting about these things. But I'd like to know from anyone who's watching who knows more about this piece does this have a in-house caliber, or is this the earlier gen where it was, you know, I think it was a Salita-based movement. Seriously nice looking piece though. I think they've done a great, especially for the price, for the size and everything you're getting. Again, Oris in this category are killing it when it comes to attainable, superb dive watches. They have a huge range. And then we can enjoy aspects like the loom shot. I mean, how amazing is that? I don't know if it's BGW9 or if it's in-house or whatever else, but really, really nice. Really nice. And Touristus is leaving us. So as some go, some arrive. It's great. Brent saying no Breitlings tonight. I've featured a couple, Brent. I don't know if you've missed. We've had a look at a Super Ocean. We had a look at a Trans Ocean, I think. Yeah, I need to feature your 765 again, though. That watch is a charm. The closest we've gotten is a Longines Big Eye, but that's it. Look how good that, it's like a disco in there, don't you think? Very 1980s, very retro. Right, carrying on. It is BGW9. Thank you, Nefarion, for that. Oris in-house only comes in the 43.5 mil Aquas. So Shaitan, I think this is, I'm thinking this is the original then. I love it though. Samurai, some great shots. And we're not done yet. We can enjoy, here we go. This might make more sense. I think this is the OG. It's the original model here. Still, they have a clear case back for you to enjoy. You know, all those little things. Breitling, Orthus, that's it. And there's another, he sent in hold on, got more. This is a good shot to hold on. He sent in a really good series of Seiko shots that we can have a look at in a second. Just when it comes to looking at light play and everything, he nailed it. Should have it submitted for the next show, Brent. That's the way. Fantastic. I'd love to feature the Longines next to it to see just how similar and different they are in the same zone. I love this dial though. I mean, it's just amazing. Like a Tron tribute, Shaitan, exactly. Something about the design elements are all locked in tight. The hands are perfect for their relationship to the batons exhibit. You know, again, talking about date placement and can watches not look too symmetrical in this arrangement. I think what does improve the image of this watch is that the batons and the hands, and they're not consistent in size. They do have a bit of tapering quality to them, you know. They're not all the same thickness, which is something that helps break the eye away. It's very, very clean. And I like that they don't fill the dial with superfluous text, superfluous text everywhere. It's very basic for what it is. They've addressed the element like the 6 o'clock baton with, you know, just cleans it up even more, keeps it symmetrical. So just the typeface. I mean, I look at things like how well does the type work on the bezel, and this is great. Like, it's fantastic. You find how crazy it is that some brands can mess it up when it comes to putting text on a bezel, that the type just doesn't look as right as it should be. Oh, come back. Look at that blue though. Aquamarine. More brands. It's just like almost a fume dial for what it is. So I love it. It is stunning. Okay, catching on to the chat. You know what's crazy? I haven't had one. There's mention about Cherry. I haven't had one Fisherman's Friend this whole show. 3 hours we've been running for. Time for the remainder of the Glen. I'll be with you in a moment. So, pressure resistant. Really nice. This is the same model that has the Cherry dial. I think it might be. Bezel, yeah, watch and pray it is. It's polished steel. The whole watch, it's very peculiar. I've never noticed this watch to have a polished bezel before, but hey, you learn something every day. Hot take. I could do a whole video on bezel font. I'm dreading the thought. Anyway, carrying on. This is the SARX033. And he's been playing around with Adobe Premiere, or was it Lightroom? One of the two. And his photos are looking amazing. I'm loving it. I mean, the way that, look at this. This is so clean and simple. It's great. Samurai, doing a good job, sir. And if I remember, he is a professional photographist, so he should know his stuff when it comes to this. It's great. And the titanium, is this a heat blued tool? That's really nice. Yeah. SARX. I don't know what they call this. Is it like the baby Grand Seiko? They call it something like that. Chaz saying, got to be the record. It is. I have never gone a show without one Fisherman's Friend. So I don't know what's going on with me, Chaz. This is a real change. Nuts. Very clean shot, as Eric says. It looks great. Really professionally done. Congrats, Samurai. Please share more of these in future. I'd love to see that Save the Ocean turtle that you have in this setup. I'm pretty sure you have the Save the Ocean. Amazing. Just amazing. And Justin says, there goes the potential sponsorship. Yeah, I mean, you win and you lose, right? I love it. Okay, can we carry on? Samurai, beautiful shots. Now we're going into a completely different area. I think our man Bobby Legs is going to love this. And I've never seen this. I've never been able to describe the name of this brand, but I'm going to try. Here we go. Chrono 2. Chrono 2. And I'm not going to say the maker's name because I will completely botch it. But there's the piece. And there's been a lot of interest in this zone. Not only Ming, but Kudoki and other pieces in this very outlandish, bizarre area. Japan made. Very in-house, very specific. And he did mention also that this is a very difficult watch to photograph. So Sriram has sent in some cool watches before in the past, and he's just picked this up. I think this is quite a recent release, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, that's it. I have a new release just recently. I remember seeing a headline. I'm pretty sure that was this past week. They just brought out something. He said it's very difficult to photograph, I guess, because it's highly polished and everything there. But look how they do the tachymeter in set, and those subdials and those hobnails. Very peculiar. And you notice, I mean, this feels something out of the 40s. In the purest sense, this is how you would expect to see a 40s model. Salmon dial, that was it. The Pharaon, that was it. Salmon dial, and I'm pretty sure it's the same aesthetic as this too. First thing you see, a telemeter scale, you know that this is a watch out of the 1940s. That's like the element that tells you. Tachymeter set on the inside, and the intersecting lines is very true to that 40s aesthetic. Downside to this watch is there are no markers inside the points for you to judge where the chronograph is going. You have a 5. So you do have the 30-minute marks covered, but 4, and that's running set. It's not that bad, actually, being a bicompax. Nicely considered date window arrangement, if not a little bit too thick. I'm getting very critical, and I think I'll stop. Kind of vintage, as Mason says. The way the scales overlap, yeah, for sure, but modern with sun. And the idea of actually having a framing around the subdials is very, very nice. Zero lime. I think you're talking about lume. I don't know. I don't even know what zero lime is. Wish the date was within a circle. This is something else, by the way. I can't believe you just said it. Yeah, Mark, I mean, I have to be truthful. I have to be honest here. I haven't touched it yet. Who's to say it won't happen? I guess maybe the whiskey was too smooth this evening for me. I'm pretty sure this doesn't have any lume. Maybe there's something at the 12. Highly unlikely. I mean, this is a dress watch in the purest form. Notice how the hands are sword on one side, or should we say like semi-sword, semi-syringe, and then here we have leaf hands. And then every hand set is different. How's that? We have this broad arrow here at the top. We have a leaf hand. That doesn't really make much sense. Generally, you want to match the running minutes with the way that the hand set is arranged for the chronograph. And then I don't know. I'm just pulling it. I'm really pulling at hairs or nitpicking or whatever you want to say. Taking that hit from the coffee. Mark, I like that comment. This is the first time in a long time. I'll tell you that much. Who's to say it won't happen now, though? Talking about date windows, would be nice to see a circular frame date window. I fully agree. It's funny that brands aren't doing it. They have so much potential to do circular windows instead of rectangles. It was a good comment. Similar, maybe it was you, Chaz, who left the comment saying there's so much potential out there for the opportunity. And why? Whoever established that rectangular is the form for a date window? Why can't it be circular? I think it would just soften the watch so much more in many categories. Okay, carrying on to Steve. Sriram, thank you for this really outlying piece, to say the least. We've got an awesome Moser coming up. We're not done yet. This is fun. This is really fun. Steve sent this in. I have no idea what this maker is, but you won't believe it. This is a seagull movement, seagull tourbillon, genuine tourbillon for £450. Now, we know the prices of tourbillons, and I think Seagull is a movement manufacturer that we can really get behind because they make proper workhorses. Isn't it amazing to think that you can actually get this kind of quality for $400 when generally the tourbillon is 100,000 plus bucks? Nuts. Clam Walker in the zone. This watch was fun as hell. We're talking about, oh, Clam, yeah, for sure. I mean, now I'm finally awake 3 hours in. This is when you're at the sweet spot where you got a little bit of alcohol in the system, got the coffee in, now you're running pretty smoothly. Wabi sabi, that's it. Carrying through, there's a couple more shots he sent. So we got a shot of the movement at the back. How insane is this? So the maker, if you'd like to know, is Sujes. If anyone would like to get on board and hop onto one of these pieces, I think it's pretty incredible. They even mentioned tourbillon on the case back there. I love it. I just find it fascinating. The most fascinating thing is the fact that you're getting a tourbillon movement for such a good price, considering it. Thank you, Dan. You sent me a photo of the Rainbow Zenith. I can't make amendments and edit that into the clip, sadly, but I will definitely leave a footnote at the bottom of the video saying I should have mentioned it. Okay. Didn't Germany ever flip everyone off? They was talking about the Eurovision show. I don't know if that's still going on at the moment, but you guys. How cool is this? And of course, Steve is taking a hit from the whiskey. This is like a common thing. We should have like a whiskey segment for these shows where, like, I don't know, we have, I could probably do taste testing. Very dangerous thing to throw out there, taste testing whiskey on a live stream. But Seagull Tourbillon, watch and pray. Mind blow, absolute mind blow. And it looks sublime. It really does look, I mean, blued, as you would expect. I don't think these are actual blued screws, but we know them to be workhorses, and it's pretty something to see for this price to get a proper tourbillon. This is not just any old tourbillon either. I think Seagull does punch way above their weight, especially when we're chatting about watchmaking. You can get cheap Seagull movements, but then this, pretty impressive to say the least. Is any watch a tourbillon if you if you spin around really fast, Justin? Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the very same movement that allowed Invicta to offer 1 year ago for 800 plus. Really nuts. I'm learning something every single day. So this is another Steve. As far as I know, this is one Steve. The next Steve, Steve B, sends in the SPB 143. I have to do a follow-up review of this watch, but he's just picked this up and it's exceeding expectations. I've had a, should I say, love-hate relationship with this watch over the last couple of months. I'd say 6 months since I've had it. On one hand, it's almost too good the way it's done. Design-wise, it's just excuse the squeaking chair. It's just uncluttered. It's very plain and simple. It's very tool-focused. It's the most, I would say, the most un-Seiko dive watch out there. But still, it does have those 6.2 MAS features. It feels very much like a Black Bay, a modern Black Bay in this line. They're competing most definitely in that line. And so it is. And footnote, that's it, Al. Thank you for that. I'm loving it. I like it when the chat quietens down a bit so I can just talk over myself. It's a beautiful thing. So Steve is enjoying this. He just picked it up and he is getting a lot of wrist time with it. And I can understand where he's coming from. It has these watch, and also you can see it's a Seiko because bezel is one click off, just micro off. There's something about it that you can really enjoy as far as a daily wearer goes. It's all you need. The movement is a real workhorse. The Marine, on a Marine Master 300 clasp, that's the one upgrade for anyone out there who has one of these watches. Pick up a Marine Master clasp. I got one sent. I asked for one in the States, and that just changes the watch completely. It's a titanium arrangement, so it's got the full deployment system. It really makes the watch feel much more professional, and it's isn't just a continent-wide freak show. It is just as it always is. I don't know if you're talking about Eurovision or this show, but in both ways, I agree. Intercontinental. That's it. That's it. Stunning watch. I think you've captured the light very well with this piece too, Steve. Really nice. The style is beautiful. One huge suggestion, put it on a grey NATO. If you follow me on Instagram, that's what I've been wearing the watch on. Grey NATO just sings. It just sells the watch. It feels great for all occasions, really. I mean, how can you go wrong with it? Seems like you have many dark dials in your collection. Yes, I mean, that's it, watch and pray. I need a white dial watch. That is for sure. And in a perfect world, I would be going for the 5-digit Explorer 2, but that's impossible to get, basically, considering they're going for like freaking $8,000 or something daft at the moment. I'd love to get one of those original 5 digits, but that's the one white dial watch that I'm very much drawn to. My chat isn't it is an Intercontinental. Yep. Foot shot seals the deal. That's it, Shaitan. Steve, thank you for this. And boom. Lunga one, the Lunga one from our man Tao. I don't know if he's still in the chat. It's probably very late where he is in the world. It's an hour ahead, so it's 2:15 in the morning. This is the Lunga one from 1995, ladies and gentlemen. It's the original. It's just, and he did say in the email, haven't shared this one for a while, so well worth discussing. This is a true collector's piece. I think he got this watch when it was released, like right around that time. And it's pretty much doubled in value now, considering that it's the OG. Look at it. Just look at it. Bask in the beauty. Date windows on watches. There should be a link to it in the corner of the screen. If I do a playback when I do the playback, it'll be there for you if you hit the exclamation mark. Lunga, just watches out of Glasuta do it miles better than any of their competition. There is just so much. He is in the chat. Awesome. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for staying, I should say. Um, there's just so much to take in. The longer one is just one of those. Just what do you say about it? How can I articulate it? It's difficult. I tried to make a video discussing why this watch is considered perfect. If you have to draw center lines through the hands, I had a college professor asking if he could use my images for the longer one for his presentations, because there's so much to take in with regards to how everything's divided up, how everything's balanced, the big date, it's offset. It's seriously cool. Oh, okay, taking the very last drop of the Glen, unfortunately. I mean, what can you say that's bad about the watch, really? It's one of those pieces, I think, that, like a handful out there, you can never grow tired of it. It's just, yeah, the GOAT, as Chaz says. This is the GOAT, the truest, because it's the first. And the way you can tell is that the case back is solid and it's got all the engravings. It doesn't have a clear case back. It's just an absolute. And there's a couple of serious collectors here who watch these shows. I mean, Russell, he loves his Lungas. Rick, I don't know if Rick on Watches is here, but he would greatly appreciate this piece, I think, from just an individualistic taste perspective. The gold was a little bit different, I think, they used back then. It's kind of honey goldish. It's light. Stunning. I'm sure Tao still just loves this piece. Yeah, double mainspring barrel. Watch golden standard of design, golden ratio. That is, Turbo, you nailed it. That's exactly what this piece is. I could sit here and just leave this on the screen for hours. There's just too much to discuss. I love it. And again, we're talking just about date windows. Glasuta is just killing everyone else. No one's coming close. You think of just Glasuta as a brand, what they're doing. Original, of course. And we see what Lunga is doing. There's so much thought that goes into how these are done. Oh, I love it. Okay, I'd be here all day, but we're going to jump to his next piece, another pickup from Tao. Nice shirt. Yeah, I got the texture involved. And I should have said this photo. This was also top contender for the cover, by the way. Tonight's dinner, Penang curry. Shaitan says, I love it. That's so funny. This is an excellent contender for a cover photo. The only reason why I didn't feature it was because of that Explorer story that I loved from Nick. But other than that, this would be pretty much in the second, third category. They're right there. Yeah, can't believe. Oh, wow, Mark, you have a log fire going tonight. That is nuts, just nuts. Herringbone, that's it. Herringbone texture. Okay, going to carry on. Next watch from him is a completely different piece. He loves his German watches, though. The Zin U50. You see, we have a common thread going on here where the U50s and the U1s getting a lot of love. Excuse me. Okay, carrying on. Love Lungas, yeah. If I had the money, there are 5 Lungas I'd buy straight away, for sure. I think I might have put Russell to sleep. I'm glad. I think Russell deserves more sleep in his life. It is like 1:15 in the morning. So this is a recent release. So it's a pearl dial, and it's the U50. Isn't it funny that on this show alone, we've seen the U1 with the scratched up dial arrangement, and now we have the pearl dial with the full DLC coating. He's still here. Russell is still with us. I know the Hot Take likes it. We did a show all about black watches, and here we go as one. Look how nicely done this is too. This looks even better done compared to the standard black dial model because it balances out with I like that. It balances out with the batons of the quarters. Very cool. So this has been done expertly well, I think. Black dial, black. The rest of the watch, it's very much a negative space arrangement where everything's black except the dial, and there's some texture. Now, he wanted to know my thoughts about exotic dials on watches. Very Marmite. When we say exotic, we mean meteorite, we mean pearl, we mean wood, whatever they put on as an extra texture. It's a very love it or hate it thing. It works with some watches for sure. And we actually had a long discussion about his wanting a black watch, and he was looking at the Zenith El Primero Dark Side or something, that the A384, the full blackout model. I was saying, yes, go for it, go mad, get it. That's just sublime. Is there any lume? B-Dev is asking. I'm wondering that too. I'm pretty sure there is. Black lume is a thing. It does exist. So there's something about this, I think, actually so similar to the first Zin that we saw, where the dial is all scratched up, which is a nice oxymoron to the tegimented steel. Here is another case where you're seeing like a reverse negative dial arrangement. It's kind of gilt in a way, how it's been printed that way. But then you also have this contrast that is very different. You don't see white anywhere. It's not a typical white dial. The light play on this would be amazing, but then it's also a stealth. So there's a lot to take in. It's kind of like a petri dish, you know? I wish we had a lume shot of this U50. That would be good. I mean, we can feature it next week, next time we do these shows. Black lume is very weak, Eric Bell says. I mean, that is the downside for sure. So I'm still a bit undecided on exotic dials. But again, it has to be for the watch, depending on the watch and what you're working with. This being a dive watch, a pearl dial doesn't make sense. I mean, you're in the ocean. Pearls come from oysters. So, you know, it all fits that kind of application. But I need also another thing. I don't know if this is the case, but it almost looks like there's a pearl inlay for the markers. I could be completely wrong, but like it. So need to do a video on exotic dials. That'll be the next step eventually, given the choice. It is black lume. Awesome. Clam saying awesome bracelet. I think the case design and bezel in general, just, I mean, the offset crown, it's gorgeous. It's so German in the way it's done. It's so purposeful. The bezel knurling. I mean, look at that. Stunning. I'll tell you, I'm really edging towards a U50, given the choice. If it counts, black onyx can be an awesome exotic dial. That's another good one, watching finance. Fully agree. Damasco's comparable watch is available with a lume dial. Oh, so we're talking about the reverse. That's another thing that lots of brands do, a fully loomed dial where everything is cut out of it. So you have that reverse negative. Nice. Okay, Tao, thank you for sending these in. I hope you're still going to last with us. We've got some, okay, next, how funny is this? Between now and the end, we have Moser, lots of Moser endeavors. We have Blancpain, we have Patek, we have Vacheron, and then the show comes to an end. I mean, that's just crazy, crazy. Yeah, the crowd's approval. I mean, it's very much an outlier. I mean, it's similar to that earlier model we looked at. This is not a watch for everyone. But I think the way this is done, it gives you that, I love the stealth feel of an all black watch. This one does feel very purposeful, even though it has a petri dish arrangement with the pearl dial set up there. Megan's back with us. God, what time is it? I'm trying to think now. It's like 5 hours, but I don't know. It must be late morning that side. The watch reminds me of a. Thank you for that, Megan. I will definitely say that out loud. It's great. Okay, jumping to Tarek. Now he has just picked up. Oh, are you ready? No words needed for this one, I'm afraid. He is a big fan of IWC, a big fan of IWC watches. He shared a lot of them in the past with us. And he picked up a Moser. I think it's the modern Endeavor. I can never judge the variances between the models. I'm not very good with names in the Moser category, but this is just a work of art. Now, we were chatting about that early Green Dragon Streamliner at the very beginning of the show. This thing, it's yellow gold too. So it's yellow gold with a tobacco dial. Oh my, the strap just works perfectly. What do you need to say about this piece? Really, it's just too much. It's just too much. There's just so many things to take in. Sorry, hold on a second. There's actually a silver dial. Palladium finish. It's a silver case. As far as I know, he sent in a good handful of shots. It's just so good, man. It's so elegant. I think this watch really just epitomizes that category there. That Moser makes me want a Davidoff cigar. You know what, Shaitan? That's the case. I'm not a cigar person, I should say, but I can see the appeal for sure. And watching finance, go Moser. You need to get one, by the way. I think your collection deserves one. Watching finance, seeing the pieces that you've shared with us, when or if they'll pick up on the secondary market, it doesn't make any. Yeah. I feel like attention is getting closer and closer to Moser. Oh, look at that thing. There's just so much. I mean, just chatting about, excuse the squeaking chair. Good grief. It's time of the month, clearly. Comparing this to the Lunga one that we just saw, they just are in that same, I mean, let's get it up again. One and done. These two pieces just are in their own, just, talking about that Hort horology space. They're riding their own cloud and just chilling. They don't need to do much. They've just got it whacked. They know exactly what they're doing. And this is what I especially love, not just from these high-end names, but from the micro brand space too, is when a brand is truly defined by how they address everything so nicely. And this one, the lugs, classical aesthetics, here we can really appreciate it. Hermes belt, matching the shoes. Oh, this was actually going to, I was thinking of using this as the cover photo too. Tarek, this is such a cool looking watch. Watching finance. I do have a Moser. Okay. I just assumed that I think your collection deserves it. Shared it weeks ago. Gold with blue strap. I'm sorry. You can tell. I can tell you what. These shows at this stage, I'm running on autopilot. New chair fund, Justin. That's just it. That is just it. And I don't know what's going on in the chat, guys. Are having laughs about who knows cohibas and talking about the semen petri dish as Megan mentioned earlier. I love that. Such a good shot, as Chaz says. I think the arrangement is stunning. You can just leave the show here. The fume effect there, and leather jacket, and you're done. This is just it. And of course, we can appreciate the movements. I got to thank Tarek for sending these in, because this is such great attention to detail. We can really take in all the elements here. So this is his other piece, and I think he does have a face up shot with them both in a second. As far as I know, I mean, these movements are separated by a few things. Let's have a look. I have never seen this before. So we have, again, I'm not a watch movement fanatic, so I might need some help here, but it looks like there's a different stamping. The power reserve on the back of the watch, spot on. I think that's what all brands should be doing. Having a power reserve at the back gives you incentive to turn the watch around, and it makes sense. You're winding the watch, you have a look, you can see where it is. It's there, but it's out of the way. Amazing. When we move over here, we can see the power reserve has shifted up, down. It's kind of German in the way that's done. I think this is actually Moser's seal. It makes sense now. And there hasn't been much of a change. This has a bit more technicality to it. I don't understand why. This might be to do with accuracy and everything there. The bridges are very similar. Oh, it's just beautiful, man. I love these shows. There's always something to take in. It's just a joy. What a cool two-piece collection in the Moser camp. I think if NS something is watching, he would do backflips. He loves these watches. There we go. We can appreciate the two. The one is a center. That's it. The one's a center seconds. The other one is a sub-dial. Look at that. So here's your sports watch and here's your dress watch. Done and dusted. You've got the full arrangement covered. I think the Moser quality, Sam. Thank you, Watching Finance. Or take saying hint there. Sorry, I've missed the conversations going wild. Everyone's found their second wind. Forben, love it. So Megan has to love and leave us again. She's been very busy on a Sunday. This is a Sunday morning. I got to tell you, ladies and gents, she's been up since like 3 a.m. I don't know how she does it, but 3 a.m, her side of the world, and she's working on a Sunday, going to and fro. Just nuts. Anyway, good luck. I hope you have a superb Sunday, and you get some rest this evening, hopefully. Chatting about this again. What a great pairing. This is how the show could end, Okay, carrying on. We got a few more shots, I think. Side profiles. Check this out. Something I noticed. This model has a beautiful domed sapphire. This one is flat. I wonder why. I wonder what the differences are. Otherwise, the cases look a little bit more. You can see that the cutout here is a little bit more solid, where this is a bit softer. It's not as sharply done. So it's really interesting just taking in all these little facets and aspects. It's a brand that more people should be looking at. I know that these aren't $100. They are very, very uncheap, to say the least. But there is a lot to take in. I think as far as a revival of a brand, Moser, the way they've bought, so Edward Malin, probably butchered his name, has bought up this brand and just through the ranks, bringing out sports models now and the best cases in the business, as Ferran says. Seriously interesting, very, very organic. Now we're jumping to our Mr. Watching World Finance next with a Blancpain Le Mans Perpetual. How cool is this? Tarek, I have to thank you for those. One of the showstoppers, I think. Those Mosers are just nuts. So the story behind this watch is that he bought this with money left from his late grandfather. The remainder of the money left from his late grandfather, he was able to pick up this watch. And I love it. Pointed date again with the date complication. It's like, well, the month and the day and the month, that's the one. And a moon phase with the smiling man. I mean, that's Blancpain in the purest sense. This is a great dial. Look at the balance. Quarter Arabics. Now, here's the thing. I was chatting about Explorers and their Arabic arrangements. How perfect would this setup look on a modern Explorer today? With the Le Mans series, the Putin variant, This is just a case of a watch that looks sublime. Why can't the brand revitalize this typeface? It looks a lot more squashed. It's not as flat and broad, and it just works so well. It feels very modern, classical, and it rides the line. And then you've got your typical sword hands. It's very Blancpain in the way it's done. Pointed date with that crescent moon there. That's a love it or hate it thing, whether you like that bright accent. Real dressy piece, but then, it's a gem. It's a real gem, a real outlier too. We've covered 100 hours. Yes, I mean, that's a good point to ferry on. That's the one thing that makes the Le Mans famous, is that they all have that 100-hour rating. Even if the watches are 36 mils in size, they have insanely big power reserves. I think that's what Blancpain wanted to do when they moved into the modern segments in the 90s onwards. They wanted to be sure that their watchmaking was above and beyond, and they made sure that their power reserves were just stupid. 100 hours. I mean, really, it's a twin barrel, I think. It's crazy. And I think the beat rate is pretty slow. You can get away with that. We mentioned that earlier on the show. Having a slow beat rate means that with a subdial like this, you can't notice the stuttering of the, and I actually stuttered when I was saying that. You don't notice the stuttering of the seconds hand, which is amazing. So yeah, great watch. And the Le Mans case too. I love it. If I had the choice between choosing a Le Mans or an Explorer, I would honestly go for the Blancpain Le Mans. Lots to take in. Moon phases are great with the angry face. Yeah, I know. And Russell, speaking of Russell, he loves his outlier watches like his UNs, Ulysse Nardin. I am FP gay. Oh, yeah, so that's it. FP gay movements. That's it. Watching finance. Thank you. I think Rolex should move to the old style Explorer numerals, but loom filled applied. I mean, that's it. This is it. They nailed it. If you've had a look at that Putin, I think we featured it before on the show. Last show, we actually had it on, funny enough. I think it was the discussion about outlier watches, if you want to check back to it. But we shared the original Le Mans with just a black dial. This looks so good, man. So good. We're not done yet, though. Beautiful dial. Just stunning in this category. Thank you for this. Next, we're moving to one of his earlier watches he bought in his 30s, the Classic Fusion. This is the first Hublot we've featured in a while. Classic Fusion 38, bought for my 30th. And he basically said, yeah, my tastes have changed a bit since then. He's been jumping to and fro. He's got a cool collection. So we featured a Moser that I cannot remember for the life of me. Sorry about that. But we've featured a Yacht Master 2 from you, a couple of Rolexes, an AP, or you've got an interesting series of pieces. Watching finance. Can use your influence to get the Putin to join in the chat. You know what? Reach out to Putin and say, hey, we love your watch. Get on here. That would be good, right? They're awesome. And there's been so many comments going on that I've missed. The Aqualung, that's it. So it's called the Le Mans Aqualung. If you'd like to look, anyone who's interested, Le Mans Aqualung, Blancpain, beautiful watch. Just with the big date, it looks so damn good. Cool, I haven't missed that much. There's been some debates going on that I've been missing out, so that's all fine. Still underrated. Hublot Classic Fusion, or we're talking Blancpain Le Mans? I don't know. They both are in my point of view. If Blancpain made a 42 mil 50 fathoms, if they made a 40, they make a 40 mil spec model. They deserve to be mass produced at this stage. I think it sucks. It's one of the biggest travesties. It's like Omega not releasing the MOD Seamaster. They need to bring out, Blancpain needs to bring out a more utilitarian 40 mil watch for everyone, and the masses would be jumping on that watch like crazy. They wouldn't be able to make enough of them. Tippy says, did I miss anything big? Well, we're on a Hublot now, so we are winding down, but we're not done yet, because next up, Watching Finance, thank you for sending these in. Next up, we're jumping to a Vacheron Constantin Historique American 1921. We love this watch. Now, Tyler, Turbo T2, he did a bit of traveling this past week to pick up a new watch. Excuse the squeaking chair. The hunt for the next watch continues as we come to the end of the show, because now we're seeing watches only tried on in boutiques. And this is going to be something. So he deliberately put this on the right wrist for us to see, because some of us here, me, wear watches on the right. And you can see what happens when you wear this particular watch the wrong way around. I did a video about this a couple of weeks back. I'll put that link in the corner of the screen if I remember. And that watch is so peculiar, but it just deserves the love. It's such a gem. So the reason why he was at Vacheron was for a pickup. He received a piece. And you mentioned, yeah, this watch on the right wrist makes no sense. I know it's depressing, Tal, because I love this thing and it just doesn't work. So he says, serious question. Why do you think people set their watches on the crown to take pictures? Set their watches on the crown. Now, again, remember, I'm 3.5 hours in and I might need some help with answering that. Set watches on the crown. No, slips my mind. You might need to explain a bit further, Turbo. Sorry about that. No, you didn't miss any of them, Ranchard, luckily. So they're very expensive. It's very expensive. It's rare and attractive. It's so peculiar. And yeah, for the right wrist, you're in heaven. For the left wrist, the left-hander's wrist, I should say, you're going to struggle. But I love it. The cushion case is amazing. 1921. The Ferion, what did you say? Needs to turn it upside down. I mean, that's it, eh? Make a big difference. Uh-oh. Magic Mouse. She's having her moment again. So the story behind this pickup, because they like to flip them. That's it. It's resting on the crown side. Oh, okay. Well, watchmakers will actually tell you, a lot of watchmakers will tell you that crown side down is actually the way to rest them, which is funny because we traditionally think that is a good point. 3 hours in and still dropping watch knowledge. So traditionally we think resting it on the side of the case makes more sense because the crown stem is weak and you can damage it and all that. Blah. The thing is though, you're more prone to scratching the watch if you put it on the side of the case, whereas the watchmaker will tell you put it on the crown because the crown is resilient and odds are of you damaging it very low, and there's no pressure points on the side of the case that will most likely get scratched if it's rested there. So I think the good compromise is just putting it flat, putting it on its back, but I know it's difficult when you've got to deploy it and stuff. But yeah, there we go. It's a watchmaker's perspective. I've heard that story a couple of times before. So that's cool. I'm not a watchmaker. This is from friends. Okay, nice looking piece. But the reason why, and now I'm guessing what complication did we need in 2020? A chronograph. Narancha is always on point. I love it. Thank you for that one. I mean, we've chatted about chronos. We're going to get to some now, actually. No, don't put it on the crown. And so it goes. I think it might depend if the crown is a drew down. Exactly, Russell. If it's a drew down or not, that's the real dividing line. Yeah, that's it, Russell. Thank you. So the reason why he was at the Vacheron boutique to get some experience was because he got the call and he took a plane to get there. And he picked up, funny enough, we go every single show featuring an overseas. He just picked up the overseas Gen 3 that everyone is going mad for. Such a bizarre time, I tell you what. Thinking that I was making videos like 2 years back saying, pay more attention to this watch. And now no one can get the APs or the Pateks, so they're hopping on this. And what an amazing value for money watch it is. Let's be realistic. It's sublime. And this photo is amazing too. This was on his return home with the watch, of course. Must be pretty special hopping on the plane with the new watch on. And I hope you're enjoying the strap changing, Turbo. It was a 5-month wait. That's not bad. Still, though, that's hectic considering where we are at the moment. You used to be able to just walk in and pick these up. It's the supply and demand game. The blue is incredible. And I have learned that the same manufacturer that works on FP Journe's chronometer blue, same dial manufacturer as far as I know. The color is virtually exact. It looks beautiful. What an amazing shot too. Just nice. I listened, Mark. What did I say? Did I say something? Oh, the drew down. Maybe that was it. I don't know. 3.5 hours in. That's it. Lucky man, as someone's saying. Yeah, sure is. And we're not done yet with the Genta-esque stainless steel sports watches because now we're jumping to Russell's experience from this week. And what did he pick up? Well, he hasn't picked up anything, but he got to experience quite a bit. Thank you for this, Turbo, again. It was literally overseas. You're kidding. It wasn't in the States. Surely it was. I'm interested in knowing this story. Turbo has the coolest stories around his watches. I can tell you that. We've shared his Speedmaster background and all of that too. Right. So Russell, what have you been up to? Let's start first with the latest release from, these are all Pateks, by the way. So if you're not a fan of the latest Patek releases, I think this is your time. I like what they've done here with this calendar. This is called the full calendar, I believe. That's the latest range that they're doing. So it's a full, I'm pretty sure it's a perpetual calendar with the quarters there. But this is something they took. I really like this. They've taken the inspiration from a pocket watch from the 70s. I thought it was even more old-fashioned, but it's not. It's not that old school of an approach. But the way they've done it here with the day, date, month all in a line, it's something to look at. Also notice that the case flanks, I've learned this from watching Revolution Watch, the way the lugs integrate here is something very reminiscent of the 1960s case formats that they used. So you notice it's not voluptuous, it's very like rigid. And this is something very true to specific Calatravas. I don't know if this falls into the Calatrava range, but I really dig it. I think this framing is very nice. A lot more, let's be honest, a lot more considered compared to just having a 3 placement plot right there. That's what they love doing. They just throw the number, as we will see when we get to the Nautili in a second. The Nautili, love it. So Turbo says it was taken off the coast of California. We took off from John Wayne Airport, Costa Mesa. Okay, flew over the Pacific, literally overseas. I love it. That's great. Here I was thinking you would have to fly out to like, Japan or something to collect it, but it's amazing. Cheaper to fly at home. So Dan the Watchman. Watches are put on their crown to keep better time. It's the most common position to your wrist, and they're tuned with that. I see that, Dan. Thank you. So what happens when you wear your watches on your right side? Technically, do the watches work better or worse? I mean, look, the most accurate watch I have is my Seamaster 57, and that thing is +2, -2 all day, every day. It's insanely good, and I wear it on the right wrist. So very good point. I mean, that could be a debate in itself. Okay, so we've had a good look at this perpetual. Now we can jump to this watch that has been really, we featured the video at the beginning of the show from Russell. He sent a clip of this watch as a wrist roll. He has been enamored by this piece. He loves his Nautiluses, as we've spoken before. He collects very specific models in the range. He has the anniversary model. I'm trying to remember. He has a handful, 2 or 3. This one has taken his interest, especially the idea of the green dial with the diamond set. You notice how slate it looks in this light. This is firsthand seeing the green dial arrangement, and I love this. They discontinue their blue dial. They bring out the green, and the first thing they do is put a window around it, and it looks so much better. I always felt that the Nautilus looks so cheap without a window around it. This looks great. As for the bezel, I think you can probably agree that this watch looks a lot more subtle in person with the way the bezel is done. And it's nicely done considering what it is. It's a sports watch, very dressed. He actually sent me a message that I haven't read yet. I didn't get his perspective on the piece. Haven't been on the phone for a while, but it does ride this line of being more dress oriented than sports. I think that's what he said. Window blinds, that's for sure. This is under a huge number of spots. The diamonds actually don't look like this. Oh, you're talking about spotlights. That's it, right? Got it. It must look quite casual for what it is. And I like that subtlety. And also the waiting lists. They've only made like 150 of these or something daft. Isn't it funny that we've had a show where we've, as mentioned, it's better than the fully iced one. We've had a fully iced out Nautilus, and now we've gone to the more tamer one. I love how these shows, you can't call it coincidence, how these shows work and don't work. It's hilarious. Okay, next up though, we have, trying to get this right. This is the travel time chronograph, I think, if I'm not wrong. I'm pretty sure it is. Yes, it is. It has to be. And this is in rose gold, I'm assuming. But again, a crazy, crazy beast. I really like what they do with the shoulders here, where it's actually the pusher, and it's separate from the chronograph. If they had to do the chronograph pushers at the same side to match it out, it would look awesome. But yeah, this is definitely not a watch for everyone. I'd like to know your thoughts on this, Russell. Love it or hate it? Did you like it? Rose gold, blue dial. Okay. Was this the kind of watch that spoke to you, or do you prefer the more subtle stuff? Russell has interesting taste because, he has a 5370, which is just an absolute gem of a Patek chrono. This is a little bit left of field to what he goes for normally. So, it's strange. Funny looking crown. Yeah, it is. One thing I always critique is the way they do pushers on these chronos. I just so wish they were more subtle. And it's not the thing I like about it is it's not your traditional looking Nautilus. The arrangement is very out there with the subdials at the 6 and at the 12. Nicely balanced, nicely centered. And first impressions, you just look at it and go, what is that thing? You can't really judge it as the Nautilus, That's it, Thomas. Thank you for the super chat. I'll get to that right now. Next up, we're jumping to another shot from Russell. This is the diamond in more direct light. How cool is this? Is a really good representation of it. Actually, you can see it better. I think it's such a strange looking arrangement. Honestly, I'm still struggling to put it into words what it's done. Okay, so catching up to Thomas, mentioning that the show Watch Talk with the Punters, yes, has changed to Saturday, every other Saturday when I'm not running. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Therefore, will be no show tomorrow, but shall return Saturday. Yeah, it sucks. I so wish that the Blue Shirt could arrange a schedule so that you could run. I love the show on Sundays. But yeah, as these shows happen, we'll be doing a bi-weekly thing where we run it. Maybe you guys can run, I mean, on a Saturday. You could do it. No, you can't do it after the show. You could do it during the show. I mean, why not, Thomas? But thank you so much. To everyone listening, Watch Talk with the Punters has been put back because the Blue Shirt's work schedule has changed. So sadly, no show on Sunday, which I really look forward to at like 7 p.m. Anyway, maybe it won't be for too long. Let's hope. And Watching Finance, this is a great show as always. Thank you, really. The next one we'll have is probably in 2 weeks time, roughly. I should do another auction video just to see the suffering going on in the background, but we're not done yet. The last watch, it's just the watch in steel, which is cool. I'll get back to the diamond bezel because that's a bit more interesting, but I think one thing I love is just how they've nailed the window. The green is also very, very nice. But I dig. This is fun to end on. I think a nice glitzy diamond jubilee. It's so difficult to put into words what to see. To carry on, last week would be a hard act to follow on the punters. Yeah, and the week before with Rick, amazing. I mean, such crazy cool collections. I find it fascinating. It's something to hear a collector's opinion on the watches they have and what draws them to them. Like, I know Russell pretty well and the watches that he digs. I'm interested in knowing what he thinks around this watch. I think his name is on the list of one of these. So it should be nice to see. I got to say, talking about classy, whatever happens to classy watches, truth is, I feel like this does ride the line pretty well, considering. I'd be interested in seeing what it looks like in natural light too, but that's the new Nautilus, the last of the steel 5711s. I don't even know if the reference number has changed, but that's it. Huh? Ladies and gentlemen, 3 hours and 46-ish minutes. It's been a hell of a time. Chatted about all sorts. I don't know if we stuck with the theme of the love for hunting the next watch, but as you can see, a lot of new pickups arriving. And this is the thing. The hobby is always ongoing. Rare and attractive shows. Can't wait, Andreas. God, that was bad. Okay, I'm going to close this off before we talk ourselves into circles. Get to the closing screen, stop the screen share, and just address you all. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of the shows. It's always so much fun, regardless of whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I love the refresh. I love to take a bit of a break, a bit of a breather. Turbo T2, awesome. For the chair fund again, this is going towards the chair fund. I kid you not. It's going to happen. And I'm seeing lots of tags in the chat. Thank you. It's been a slice, as Flippin says. Everyone, I hope you enjoy your Sunday. If you're based in the UK, my condolences. We've had torrent weather. It's been terrible. It's supposed to be in spring, essentially, and not getting it, suffering. I need sun in my life, as most of us do. So it's great. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I know a lot of you can sit and listen to these shows for 4 hours straight, and I greatly appreciate it. Next week, Watches of the French Armed Forces. It's a monster. It's a huge amount of history. A year's worth of studying went into it. It's been very difficult to source elements. Guys, thank you so much. Really, the super chats are ridiculous. Really, such a pleasure. And for the watches you sent in, I loved the diversity. It was hard to name the show, whether it was going to be an outlier collection or something a bit more out of left field. So, Watches of French Forces. Then I've got the Longines write-up to do. That's going to be great. But other than that, it's always it's Clam says, Lucian says bye. Awesome. Have a superb weekend. Now we're just gone over to Sunday. And hope the hangovers are mild, to say the least. The rain is making my lovely Mason. I'm not going to say that live. Great. Definitely don't send a shot of that, please. Take care of yourselves, everyone, again. And yeah, see you in the next one, whenever that'll be. 2 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, who knows. See you then. Cheers for now. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.